Probably one of the luckiest people in my generation. I was earning a US salary, paying taxes in Singapore, which is one of the lowest in the world, and started spending most of my time in Dhaka. আচ্ছা 1 billion people আছে হলো গিয়ে চায়নাতে, ইন্ডিয়া 1.5 billion people চায়নাতে আছে, 1 billion people আছে ইন্ডিয়াতে. If you rank the countries, Bangladesh will come 7th or 8th, 170 million people. কিন্তু আমাদের তো কিছু নাই. So something like Alibaba is possible in Bangladesh. সে সেরকম গলার মধ্যে চাপ দিছে. সেই গলার মধ্যে চাপ দিছে, আমি দেখে থাপ্পড় দিছি. I thought someone had held Zia for ransom, and they were asking money from me, and I got very serious about that, because Zia was delivering in Rohingya camp, এবং আমাকে 1 ঘন্টা পর ফোন করে বলছে, man আরো 50,000 টাকা লাগবে. তখন at that point I was also studying a lot of things, and I bought a Bitcoin in 2013 December. For like no Warren Buffett কে আমি এখন মাঝে মাঝে চিঠি লিখি.
Hey guys, আজকে একটা খুবই স্পেশাল এপিসোড আছে, one of my favorite episode. It's with the founder of Chaldal.com, Waseem Alim Bhai. আমরা প্রায় 2 ঘন্টা কথা বলেছি about Chaldal, about raising the first investment, about getting into YCombinator, এবং $32 million বেশি Chaldal so far raise করেছে, one of the best funded startups of Bangladesh. এটা নিয়ে আমরা অনেকক্ষণ আলাপ করেছি. আমরা কথা বলেছি আরো অনেক কিছু নিয়ে, যেমন ওয়ারেন বাফেট, কিভাবে ওয়াসিম ভাই তাকে মিট করেছিল, তাকে একটা চিঠি দিয়েছিল, এরকম অনেক ছোটখাটো ইন্টারেস্টিং স্টোরিজ. আমরা কথা বলেছি about drones and books, এবং ওয়াসিম আলিম ভাইয়ের সাথে কথা বলে আমি পার্সোনালি অনেক মজা পেয়েছি. এই কারণে অনেকক্ষণ ধরে আমরা নানা টপিক নিয়ে কথা বলেছি, যেটা আমি জানি অনেক বিজনেসদের অবশ্যই ভালো লাগবে. উইথ দ্যাট, যদি জয়েন না করে থাকেন, বিজনেস গ্রুপটা জয়েন করবেন. আমি খুব শীঘ্রই এটার ইনভিটেশন গুলো অ্যাকসেপ্ট করা শুরু করব. আমি রেডি হচ্ছি গ্রুপটাকে প্রপারলি মেইনটেইন করার জন্য. সো জয়েন দ্য গ্রুপ, ইটস লিংক ইজ ইন দ্য ডেসক্রিপশন. আরেকটা জিনিস হচ্ছে, এই পডকাস্টটা এতটুকু ভ্যালু আপনার জীবনে এনে থাকে, অনেকেই এইটাকে ভালো বলছে, ওয়ান অফ দ্য বেস্ট পডকাস্ট ইন বাংলাদেশও বলছে. থ্যাংক ইউ, আই ডোন্ট বিলিভ ইট ইয়েট. আমি জানি আমি যাইতে পারবো, বাট এখন ওখানে আমরা যাই নাই. প্লিজ সাবস্ক্রাইব করবেন, শেয়ার করবেন এপিসোড গুলো. বাংলাদেশে এত ভালো ভালো জিনিস হচ্ছে, এটার কথা ছড়িয়ে দিবেন. লাইক করবেন, শেয়ার করবেন, কমেন্ট করবেন যে আর কাকে দেখতে চান পডকাস্টে, এবং লেট মি নো হাউ আই এম ডুইং. এই এপিসোডটা কেমন লেগেছে? রেটেড 1 out of 10, and 7 or 8 বললেন না, জাস্ট টেল মি ইফ ইটস a 1 or 2 or is it a 10. গিভ মি ফিডব্যাক, কমেন্টে আমার সাথে কথা বলেন. আমি কিন্তু জানি না নোটিস করেছেন কিনা, প্রত্যেকটা কমেন্টকে রিপ্লাই করি. উইথ দ্যাট, লেটস গেট স্টার্টেড. একটা wide ranging conversation with one of the best startup entrepreneurs in our country, period, Waseem Alim. Could you please kick us off here for the 2 people in the audience who don't know by introducing yourself?
I'm sure there are a lot more people. So I'm not in the business of being in talk shows, so excuse my lack of eloquence. So basically, I run a company called Chaldal. We do online grocery deliveries. We have been doing it for almost 10 years now. And yeah, I mean, basically prior to that, I worked at a startup in the Valley called Sigfig, and I went to the US for my undergrad studies, but I grew up in Dhaka. মানে ঢাকায় বড় হয়েছি, ঢাকায় বড় হয়ে ও লেভেল শেষ করে আমি বাইরে পড়তে যাই. বাইরে পড়তে যাওয়ার পরে আমি ক্যালিফোর্নিয়া কিছুদিন কাজ করি, ক্যালিফোর্নিয়া সিঙ্গাপুর মিলায়. তারপরে আমি ঢাকায় এসে আমার 2 ফ্রেন্ড জিয়া এবং তেজস, আমরা 3 জন মিলে চালডাল শুরু করি 2013, এবং 2013 থেকে এই পর্যন্ত এটাই করতেছি.
I want to ask you a lot of things about Chaldal, but I want to start at the time that you graduated. আপনি 2008 সালে গ্র্যাজুয়েট করেছেন. আমরা জানি যে 2008 সালে it was a global financial crisis and a lot of markets were in havoc. জব মার্কেটের কোনো সিকিউরিটি ছিল না, and অনেক কিছু was unstable. আপনি যদি একটু আপনার গ্র্যাজুয়েশনের পরে এক্সপিরিয়েন্সটা বলেন, বিকজ আপনি তো তখন ইউএসএ ছিলেন.
সো আমার মানে ঢাকায় যেহেতু বড় হয়েছে, অ্যাকচুয়ালি আই হ্যাড নো আইডিয়া অ্যাবাউট হাউ টেক কোম্পানিজ ওয়ার্ক. হ্যাঁ, সো আমি জাস্ট গ্র্যাজুয়েট যখন করতেছি, তখন আই থিঙ্ক there was a version of iPod which had a screen. হ্যাঁ, ওইটা আসছে, মানে আইফোনও তখন আসে নাই. And the other popular thing at that point was Nintendo Wii. I mean, that was the tech thing, like and Amazon নিয়ে হয়তো আমি জানি, অ্যামাজনে অর্ডার করছি 2-1 গুগলে অর্ডার করছি, বাট আই নেভার অ্যাকচুয়ালি হ্যাড ইন মাই মাইন্ড যে আই কুড ওয়ার্ক ফর আ টেক কোম্পানি. মানে টেক কোম্পানিতে গিয়ে কী হবে. সো what happened is 1 year before, while I was in my second and third year, I started writing articles for a company called ecomerce. So they were a startup based out of California. So they would pay me on a per article basis. I mean, financial research. I wrote an article on Barbie and metal and everything. I'm not even kidding. I wrote an article on Hershey's equity. It's a detailed article on Hershey's, etc. Analyzing their financials. So I was a finance guy through and through. My dream in 2008 was, I'll go to Middle East. I'll work for a sovereign wealth fund. তারপরে বাংলাদেশের কাছে থাকবে, যখন ইচ্ছা 4 ঘন্টার ফ্লাইট চলে আসবো। এটা হলো কি ড্রিম। আর ওয়েলথ ফান্ডে ইনভেস্টমেন্ট, that was the mindset. Then what happened was 2007 I think I interviewed with Lehman. 2008 যখন I was doing the financial sector interviews, and banks were collapsing, so they were not hiring to begin with. Secondly, I don't think আমি এত ভালো polished ছিলাম, plus I was a foreign student, so I did not actually have any offer from the banking sector or the wealth management sector when I was graduating. I had one offer with Thomson Reuters. So Thomson Reuters is the company that does all the news thing, 100-year-old company. So I had done an internship there. So they offered me, if after you graduate, come work with us. আমি বলছি, তোমরা কি আমাকে লং টার্ম এখানে থাকতে দিবা? বলছে, না, তোমার 9 মাসের OPT আছে, ইউ ওয়ার্ক উইথ দ্যাট 9 months, আফটার দ্যাট উইল ডিসাইড। আমি 9 মাসের OPT আছে, and it's something that at the end of the day is not wealth management. I have to do consulting. আমি বললাম যে এটা না করে, আচ্ছা, let me email Parker. So Parker, interestingly, was my first boss, and Parker went on to start 2 startups. So this is Parker Conrad, and he's like a superstar. So
okay, wow, your boss is Parker Conrad.
Parker আমার বিয়েতে আসছে ঢাকাতে।
Oh damn.
পার্কার আমার বিয়েতে এসে সে বলতেছে আমি YCombinator অ্যাপ্লাই করতেছি। তারপর আমাকে বলতে, তেজস্কে বলতে, do you want to join Zenefits? And then he started Zenefits, then he started Rippling is now a $10 billion company,
right?
And basically I emailed, so taking a step back, I emailed Parker, hey Parker, I'll work for free, I want to see what this startup thing is about. আর আমার খুব ওই সান ফ্রান্সিসকো শহরে আমি ঘুরতে গেছিলাম আমার মামার কাছে, আমার খুব ভালো লাগছে শহরটা, it's such a nice beautiful town, থাকলে এখানেই থাকা উচিত। So at that point, Parker said, yeah, why not, come over, we will give you like $3,000 a month, which was okay. $3,000 a month, basically graduating class of Wharton 2008, I think the average salary was $75,000 to $80,000 a year. So I took basically 50% down. I had an offer also at that scale, and the people at the top of the class were probably doing $140,000. So but that was basically to satisfy my thing. I was like, acha, টাকা পয়সা তো লাগবে না, $3,000 তো এই থাকতে লাগবে হলো গিয়ে $500, আর খাওয়া দাওয়া করলাম আর কি। এই হিসাবে আমি করি। দেন আমি 6 মাস 7 মাস পরে, when the financial market cools down, I'll apply to some Middle East wealth management firm and I'll get there. So what started as let's say a 9-month plan, and I'm still at it. It's close to 15 years now. So it's been 15 years that I've been in the technology space. So যেটা হলো যে আমি যখন ওই কোম্পানি জয়েন করলাম উইকইনভেস্টে গিয়ে দেখি যে এটা একটা ফিনটেক স্টার্টআপ। আচ্ছা, ফিনটেক স্টার্টআপে কোনো ফাইন্যান্সের কোনো লোকই নেই, ওখানে টিমের মধ্যে কেউ ফাইন্যান্সই বুঝে না, আর আমি এদিকে ফাইন্যান্স পড়ে আসছি 4 বছর। সো আই টুক দ্য লিড ইন টার্মস অফ প্রোডাক্ট। ইট ডিডন্ট টেক মি ভেরি লং টু বিকাম দ্য হেড অফ প্রোডাক্ট অ্যাট উইকইনভেস্ট। যে আমরা ইয়াহু ফাইন্যান্সের সাথে কম্পিট করবো, কি লঞ্চ করতে হবে। অ্যান্ড আই এন্ডেড আপ ওয়ার্কিং ভেরি ক্লোজলি উইথ ইঞ্জিনিয়ার্স right out of college. So my co-founder Tejas joined in the Singapore office of WICinvest. So Tejas যখন Singapore office join করে, Tejas and I would overlap in projects. Then in 2009 I told Parker যে দেখো আমেরিকা থেকে বাংলাদেশ অনেক দূরে, প্লাস বাংলাদেশে তখন ধরো I'm going out with নাহিতা, তো আমি চিন্তা করলাম যে এত দূরে লং ডিস্টেন্স সিঙ্গাপুর যাই, 4 ঘন্টার ফ্লাইট যখন হবে হবে। So Singapore গিয়ে, I mean, I would say I was probably one of the luckiest people in my generation. I was earning a US salary, paying taxes in Singapore, which is one of the lowest in the world, and started spending most of my time in Dhaka. বেসিক্যালি বছরে 7-8 মাস আমি ঢাকায় থাকতাম, 2 মাস সিঙ্গাপুরে যেতাম আর 2 মাস আমেরিকা যেতাম। That was the life. So I was working from home, because আমি দেখতাম যে as a product person, আমি এই প্রোডাক্ট একটু ব্রেইনস্টর্ম করে দিয়ে দিলে তারপর ইঞ্জিনিয়ারদের সারা জীবন লাগে এটা বানাইতে, আমার তো কোনো কাজ নেই।
I know the feeling, yeah.
ঠিক আছে বাটারটা ইয়ে করো 2 দিন শেষ so that was so I did not realize how lucky I was that I got to work in product. Product is not something that people understand এটা কি and হয়তো বা একটা organized company like Google I wouldn't have had the same exposure as I had at WikiInvest. But here I could just say that this changes. I didn't have to go through any protocol. If I agreed, if there was something particularly adventurous that I wanted to do, I just go talk to the CEO. এটা করতে চাই. So এই গেল হলো কি আমার 5 বছর ফুর্তি travel the world দিয়ে তারপরে there came a time where actually some of my friends got into YCombinator, like Parker got into YCombinator, another one of my friend Nitesh. So Nitesh actually incidentally, he was also in Dhaka like 2 weeks ago. Nitesh is someone who worked at WikiInvest. So Amit, Tejas, Nitesh, Tarun, এই চারজন লোকের সিঙ্গাপুর অফিস এরিয়া. So Nitesh actually runs one of the top 100 websites in the world.
So top 100 websites
in the world. It's called Padlet. YC ranking is number 4 in terms of just rank. He runs a setup of like I think 10 people that runs this website. The other day when he was saying it's like profitable for the last 4 years or 5 years. Capital জীবনে তুলে নেই. So Nitesh is another of these characters. So for some reason we had a collection of friends who were into this. So Parker and I think Nitesh, they got into the same YC batch. I mean, what is this YC? First time YC শুনলাম. আর তখনই I think the Steve Jobs book came out.
Right.
So একদিন পার্কারের বাসায় ডিনার খাচ্ছি, পার্কার বলছি, have you read the Steve Jobs book? আমি না, কেন? Like read it, like you make sure you read it. So I started reading the Steve Jobs book and that sort of inspired me, gave me an understanding. And Tejas and I started discussing যে কি করা যায় আচ্ছা how about we do a mechanical Turk Amazon একটা ছিল mechanical Turk where like you use like basically outsourcing in the next level outsourcing. So we were discussing যে আমরা একটা mechanical Turk এর মতন কিছু একটা শুরু করি তারপর এদিকে আবার হচ্ছে কি এদিকে আমার friend Zia so at that point obviously I had saved up a bit of capital my personally খরচ তো নাই যা ইনকাম হয় সব
প্লাস সিঙ্গাপুর
ঢাকা থাকার জন্য আমার ভালোই আমি উল্টাপাল্টা স্পেন্ডিং করি না কোনো আমি সবসময় সেকেন্ড হ্যান্ড ফোন টোন কিনি আমার কোনো খরচ এমনিতে হিস্টোরিক্যালি খরচ হ্যাজ বিন লো ফর মি বিকজ সো তখন Zia was basically Zia had left a garments factory and took a 4-month break for a personal reason. At that point Zia কে বললাম যে তুই ব্যাক করে এসে বলতেছিস ম্যান আমি ব্যাক করতেছি আমি একটা গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি জয়েন করি আমি তখন চিন্তা করলাম আচ্ছা তুমি গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি কেন জয়েন করবা how about we set up a garments factory গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি সেট আপ করতে কি লাগে আচ্ছা এই লাগে আছে তুমি বাড়াইলে আমি তো বিক্রি করতে পারবো আমেরিকায় and all of this from the cushion যে ওকে কিছু না হলে তো আমার চাকরি আছে
আচ্ছা ভাই আপনি এই সময় সিগফিগে আছেন
আমি সিগফিগে আছি
and Parker Conrad কি
he left Sigfig basically in 2012 এর 11 এর মাঝামাঝি he left Sigfig
11 এর মাঝখানে and তার আগে so you mentioned that Parker Conrad was your first boss কোথায় ওভারল্যাপ হয়েছিল এটা
WikiInvest আমি গ্র্যাজুয়েট করে 2008 থেকে 2011 পর্যন্ত he was there
it's a lifelong kind of professional journey that you've kind of ওনার সাথে শেয়ার হয়েছে almost right
I worked with him for 4.5 years but obviously we were working at a startup in an intense environment right like Parker তখন তো WhatsApp টা শুরু ছিল Parker এর সাথে I went to কি টিওমান ঘুরতেও গেছি we were very Tucson গেছি we had a very close relationship but Parker was a very interesting boss. Parker was a very interesting boss in the sense that Parker had a thing that he would oversell মানে কি সে গিয়ে CNN মানির সাথে মিটিং করছে and CNN Money is a website with like I don't know like 30 million views per day or something ridiculous গিয়ে বলছে যে আমাদের মডিউলগুলো তোমার এখানে ঢুকবো আমার এগুলো সব রেডি আছে we will go here তারপরে এখানে অফিসে এসে বলে guys we just had a meeting with CNN Money president or CNN এর president we're going to be on CNN we have to show them a demo by Sunday and launch by next Thursday
oh no I hate it when CEOs do that
no but like and that's like Parker right Parker's theory in life is like you target 15 things. You target 15 things. Even if you hit half of them, it's okay. হ্যাঁ, আর আমাদের স্কুলে সবসময় শিখেছে যে under promise over deliver. He's not. He's like, like he's like, if I under promise over deliver, then I will deliver even less than 7 things. I'd rather deliver 7 things.
And it's worked out well for him. So
it has worked out really well for him. It has worked out well for him. It has worked out good for the world as well. Right? So wait, where were we?
Okay, so sorry for interrupting you. So you were saying Zia Bhai came back to Dhaka and you were thinking about opening maybe a garments factory with the security or fallback of.
Garments factory একটা খুলবো, আছে garments factory খুলতে কত লাগবে? So at that point I told Tejas, man, আমি garments factory দিতেছি, আমি $50,000 ইনভেস্ট করব, আমি জানি ওর সেভিংস আছে, ও জানি না কোথায় টাকা রাখবে। মানে দুজনে একই অবস্থা, সুখের সমস্যা। তুমি কি আমাকে $30,000 ইনভেস্ট করো, উইল হ্যাভ ইউ এজ এ পার্টনার। এদিকে আমাদের আরেক ফ্রেন্ড ছিল সাইম, আমরা সবাই মিলে মানে গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি করবো, এখানে এগ্রিমেন্ট হয়ে গেছে, কোম্পানির নাম হয়ে গেছে এক্সেট্রা। উই ইভেন স্টার্টেড লুকিং, গট আ প্লেস। হ্যাঁ, এবং জায়গাটা যখন নিছি, জায়গাটা নেওয়ার সময় মানে জিয়া এন্ড সাইম গেছে, সব কিছু ঠিক আছে, জায়গাটা শুধু দ্য ইলেকট্রিসিটি লাইন ওয়াজ নট ইন দ্য নেম অফ দ্য ল্যান্ডলর্ড, ইট ওয়াজ ইন দ্য নেম অফ দ্য প্রিভিয়াস টেনেন্ট। সো আমরা তখন বললাম যে ভাই তুমি এই লাইনটাকে চেঞ্জ করে আনো। এই যে চেঞ্জ করতে আনো, উইদিন বলার 2 দিনের মধ্যে রানা প্লাজা হ্যাপেন্ড।
Oh wow.
And when Rana Plaza happened, that had a huge impact. I mean, in terms of like emotional turmoil, etc. Like right. I'm like, not just startups. And I saw that from various angles. So at one point, it got me thinking, যে বাংলাদেশে কি ইনকাম করে এত ডিফিকাল্ট যে একটা গার্মেন্টস ফ্যাক্টরি, মানে it's literally a mousetrap, মানে and it is of no one's fault. Mane, it's not that no one's fault. Mane ki obviously like the engineer could have made the building better. They could have invested more. It's just like everyone trying to optimize their decision has ended up creating this sham of a thing, right? So I was like, okay, will there hobe na? And at that point, I decided that. At that point, actually, first thing I decided was that. Why do I like living in San Francisco versus in Bangladesh? Eta chinta kora shuru korchi. What is the difference between San Francisco and Bangladesh? And I'm like, oh, it's just the people. These people are more open, etc. And then I was like, acha, তো বাংলাদেশে এরকম মানুষ হবে কেমন আমি যদি নিজেই না থাকি। সো অ্যাট দ্যাট পয়েন্ট আচ্ছা বাংলাদেশে থাকবো, কিছু একটা করা লাগবে। তো জিয়া বললো যে ম্যান তুমি আইডিয়া খুঁজতে থাকো, আর আমি এদিক থেকে মানে র্যাপ আপ করার প্ল্যান করছি। অ্যান্ড আই অলসো গট ম্যারিড। আই ওয়াজ লাইক আচ্ছা লিভ ইন বাংলাদেশ, অন্য উল্টা পাল্টা আমেরিকা থাকলে বাসা নেওয়া লাগবে, এই করা লাগবে, হ্যান করা লাগবে, মানে that lifestyle did not like have much attraction. Plus there's friends that say yes, and keep in mind for the previous 4 or 5 years I was spending like 8 months in Bangladesh. Right. So at that point basically Zia এই আইডিয়া খুঁজতে খুঁজতে একদিন এসে বলে যে ম্যান এই ই-কমার্স জিনিসটা কি। হ্যাঁ, ওকে, ই-কমার্স জিনিসটা কি? I heard someone তারা ডেলিভারি দিবে, ডেলিভারি দিয়ে ক্যাশ অন ডেলিভারিতে অর্ডার রিসিভ করবে। আচ্ছা, so this was a triggering point, because I had never conceived যে ক্যাশ অন ডেলিভারিতে অর্ডার দেওয়া যেতে পারে। হ্যাঁ, যে টাকা যদি না দেয়, এই না দেয়, ওই না দেয়। সো যখন ও বলছে ক্যাশ অন ডেলিভারি, আই স্টার্টেড ডুইং দ্য কম্পিটিশন। হ্যাঁ, অ্যান্ড কিপ ইন মাইন্ড যে মাই ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড ইজ ইন আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং ইনভেস্টমেন্ট। মাই লাইফ টাইম আইডল ইজ লাইক Warren Buffett. হ্যাঁ, so ওইটা বলার পরে আই স্টার্টেড স্টাডিং ই-কমার্স কোম্পানিজ অ্যারাউন্ড দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড। দেখলাম যে আলিবাবার স্টোরি কি, আলিবাবার পুরো ভিডিও একটা ছিল, ইয়াংজি, ফ্লিপকার্টের কি, মানে আই ওয়েন্ট দ্য হোল ডে। আমি লাইক আচ্ছা 1 বিলিয়ন পিপল আছে হলো গিয়ে চায়নাতে, ইন্ডিয়াতে 1.5 বিলিয়ন পিপল চায়নাতে আছে, 1 বিলিয়ন পিপল আছে ইন্ডিয়াতে। ইফ ইউ র্যাঙ্ক দ্য কান্ট্রিজ, বাংলাদেশ উইল কাম 7th or 8th, 170 মিলিয়ন পিপল। কিন্তু আমাদের তো কিছু নাই। সো সামথিং লাইক আলিবাবা ইজ পসিবল ইন বাংলাদেশ। So that was like basically the point at which we were like, okay, hone down on e-commerce in Bangladesh. Let's try to তেজস্কে বললাম যে তোমার কোম্পানিটা ইনভেস্ট করা লাগবে না, আচ্ছা তুমি $20,000 দিও যদি পরে যদি থাকে, বাট তুমি একটা ওয়েবসাইট বানাবে। হ্যাঁ, and he was still working. So basically Tejas did not join full time until we spent like 6-7 months on it. Okay, I came back in June, এসে ছবি তুললাম, ছবি তুলে ওয়েবসাইট আপ করলাম, দেখি যে অর্ডারও আসা শুরু করেছে। ফার্স্ট অর্ডার ওয়াজ ফ্রম ওয়ান অফ মাই ওয়াইফস কলিগ।
আপনারা কি বেচা শুরু করলেন?
আমরা এখানে আমরা কি বেচেছিলাম, আমরা বাজারে ড্রাই গুডস, নট ইভেন ফ্রেশ গুডস। আচ্ছা, সো কোকা-কোলা, তারপরে সাবান এগুলো আমাদের তখন স্টকও ছিল না। আমরা দোকানে যেতাম, জিনিসপত্র কিনতাম, জিনিসপত্র কেনার পরে ছবি তুলে আবার দোকানে ফেরত দিয়ে আবার নতুন জিনিস নিয়ে আসতাম। সেটা একবার ফেরত দেওয়ার পরে দোকানদার খুব অ্যাংরি হতো, আমি 200 টাকা প্রোডাক্ট নিয়েছি, আবার ওগুলো শেলফিং করবো। So এটা করতে মানে there was a lot of hack over there as well, যে ওখানে গিয়ে আমরা দোকানদার বললো আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে এগুলো এইভাবে হবে না, আপনি এক কাজ করেন রাতে 10টার সময় আসেন। আমি বললাম যে ভাই আপনার দোকানে বসে থাকবেন, বলে রাত 10টার সময় আসেন। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে আপনাকে 5,000 টাকা দেবো, আপনার দোকানে যা জিনিস আছে সব কটার আমি ছবি তুলবো।
ভাইয়া আমি একটু আপনাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবো স্পেসিফিকলি, বিকজ আপনাদের ফোকাস ছিল ই কমার্স নিয়ে কাজ করবেন বাংলাদেশে, আপনারা কিভাবে গ্রোসারি সেক্টরটাকে সিলেক্ট করলেন টু ওয়ার্ক অন দ্যাট ফার্স্ট?
ওকে, সো that was I think well I don't know actually what happened, but actually na Chaldal naam pore ashe, but basically I decided on grocery mainly because of one reason. Ek number reason holo ki je Alibabar পিছনে যেরকম ইনভেস্টমেন্ট গেছে, ফ্লিপকার্টের পিছনে যেরকম ইনভেস্টমেন্ট গেছে, I could not visualize getting that kind of investment for a company in Bangladesh. VCTC কিছু নাই। বললাম যে আচ্ছা $50,000 কি প্রফিটেবল করা যেতে পারে। The main reason why Alibaba and Flipkart, these things needed a lot of money was because they were subsidizing phones. $100 ফোন $90 বিক্রি করো, or $10,000 ফোন $9,000 বিক্রি করো, get that option. Like there's no way we can do this. So and ফোনের মধ্যে কোনো কাস্টমার লয়্যালটি নেই, একবার ফোন কিনলে 2 বছর পরে কাস্টমারের কোনো দেখা নেই, and কাস্টমার প্রত্যেকবার ফোন কিনতে হলে 4টা ওয়েবসাইটে যাবে। So that was reason number 1, যে we wanted a sticky customer base. Number 2 was that we didn't want to sell things at a loss. We could not. We figured that business model, we couldn't sustain. So আমরা so কি জিনিস এমন আছে যেটা বিক্রি করলে মানে কাস্টমার রিপিট হবে। So that was grocery. The other reason for doing grocery was that we thought যে যদি বাংলাদেশে কখনো অ্যামাজন আসে কিংবা ফ্লিপকার্ট আসে, এটা তো আমাকে উড়াই দিবে। সো ওদের এগেন্সে ডিফেন্সটা কি হইতে পারে? সো ওদের উড়াই দেবে কেন? বিকজ ওদের গ্লোবাল সাপ্লাই চেইন আছে। দে উইল ডু আ ডিল ডিরেক্টলি উইথ স্যামসং, ডিল উইথ অ্যাপল, উইচ আই উইল নট হ্যাভ অ্যাক্সেস টু। সো লাইক আচ্ছা ও যদি ওরকম ডিরেক্ট ডিল করে, উই উইল হ্যাভ ডিলস উইথ লোকাল ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং। গ্রোসারি তো এত ইম্পোর্ট হবে না, গ্রোসারিতে উই উইল বি এবল টু ক্রিয়েট সামথিং। অ্যান্ড দ্য ফাইনাল রিয়েলাইজেশন ওয়াজ দ্যাট আমরা যদি মাছ ডেলিভারি করতে পারি, ফোন ডেলিভারি করা ইজ আ পিস অফ কেক। Whereas if we start by delivering phones, fish will be very difficult to get into. So these 3 realizations were like, okay, focus on grocery, let's start selling grocery.
Doing the hard thing first.
Combinations of reason, but doing the hard thing first.
Funny story, but I think apnara as a defense to Amazon, or I don't know if it's the same reason, আপনারা ওদের ডোমেনটা নিয়েও স্কোয়াট করে রাখছিলেন বাংলাদেশে।
So Amazon না এখনো মনে হয় ডোমেন belongs to us. No, so the theory was যে দেখো অ্যামাজনের যদি বাংলাদেশে আসে, we want to know, so we want to, it's not that we want a lot of money from Amazon. In fact, if someone really emails me from Amazon, I will gladly go and give the domain. I'll say, give me a meeting with Jeff Bezos if you can. But at least I will know that they're interested in the domain.
Right.
So we got the Amazon, but that was against. That was actually Zia and Tejas' decision, not mine. I was outvoted. I was like, nah, I cannot anymore. But I think it was a good decision.
I personally squat a lot of domains. I like doing it. I think it's a good asset in this day and age. Man, it's 2023, and it's been almost 10 years, more than 10 years now that Chaldal started. এই 10 বছরে I think there's been many ups and downs. We'll talk about some of the highs, for example, getting into YCombinator and a bunch of other things, getting your first customer, getting to the scale that you are today. For a moment though, I want to talk about some of the lowlights, and I'm sure there have been more than a few, because running a company is stressful in general. Bangladesh is very challenging. Could you tell us about some of the lowlights, or points where you really face challenges in doing this 10-year journey?
ফার্স্ট চ্যালেঞ্জ হলো যে অবভিয়াসলি নিজেদের টাকা দিয়ে শুরু করছি, ছবি টবি তুলতেছি, খুব ভালো করে কিছু অর্ডার আসে।
ইনিশিয়াল ইনভেস্টমেন্ট ভাই কত লাগছিল? বিকজ ইউ গাইস ওয়্যার
ইনিশিয়াল ইনভেস্টমেন্ট আমাদের মনে হয় পকেট থেকে গেছে অ্যাবাউট 30 লাখ টাকা,
30 লাখ,
আর 25 লাখ টাকা। এর মধ্যে একটা গাড়িও কিনছি, 3 লাখ টাকা দিয়ে একটা গাড়িও আছে, কিছু ফ্রিজ ট্রিজ কি বেসি কিছু একটা আছে, দেয়ার ওয়াজ সাম অ্যাসেট। সো বেসিক্যালি 25 লাখ টাকার মতন আমরা খরচ করছি ব্যাক ইন 2013, and this was in the first 6 months.
Right.
At that point I was realized যে এইটা তো আসলে বড় হবে। অ্যাট দ্যাট পয়েন্ট আই স্টার্টিং বিগ বাস্কেট, দেখি আরে গ্রোসারি, ওদিকে ইনস্টাকার্ট হচ্ছে, হচ্ছে, মানে মোর অ্যান্ড যায়, এগুলো তো অনেক বড় বিজনেস হতে পারে। লাইক ওকে, দের ইজ নো ওয়ে যে আমার 14 গোষ্ঠী মিলে এটা ফাইন্যান্স করতে পারবে। সো আই নিড ভেঞ্চার ক্যাপিটাল। হাউ ডু আই গেট ভেঞ্চার ক্যাপিটাল? I was like, okay, apply to YCombinator. পাকারা তো YCombinator গেছে, আমরাও যাই YCombinator এ। হ্যাঁ, so 2013 December I actually, and this was after the applications were over, and that back then they didn't even accept late application. আমি তাও দিছি একটা অ্যাপ্লিকেশন দেওয়ার এক সপ্তাহ পরে দেখি যে পল গ্রাহাম ইমেল করছে যে কাম ক্রিসমাসের 21 তারিখে উইল ডু অ্যান ইন্টারভিউ, অ্যান্ড দিস ওয়াজ এ স্পেশাল ইন্টারভিউ, লাইক they had 6 partners in the interview. 6 partners in the interview: Paul Graham, Jessica, Paul Buhite, I think Kevin was there, Trevor was there. 5 partners, right? All 5 of them interviewed us, and it's a founding team of 5. So আমি আর তেজ না আসলে ইন্টারভিউতে গিয়ে না আমরা কিছুই জানি না, হ্যাঁ, মানে আমাদেরকে জিজ্ঞেস করে আমরা একটা গাধা, হ্যাঁ, মানে লিটারালি গাধা। পল বুহাইট কি করছে, মানে দিস ইজ দ্য গাই হু ক্রিয়েটেড জিমেল, এটাও জানি না, হ্যাঁ, মানে উই হ্যাড নো আইডিয়া অফ দ্য ডেপথ অফ পিপল উই আর টকিং টু। সো ইন্টারভিউ দেওয়ার পরে সন্ধ্যার সময় ইমেল আসছে, দেখো, we think that grocery delivery in the Bangladesh is a good idea, but we don't know if it will, we don't know if you are the right team to do it. So basically, we don't know if you are qualified enough. And right now, it seems like the right thing for this company to be is to be in Bangladesh. So there went my only plan of raising capital. Like, YCombinator do a capital raise score. That's what I knew.
Right.
And basically, I had a visitor visa. I decided that interview Google dite jay, I will not leave the US till I have raised some money. Jemne hok ami taka raise korbo. মানে after the interview I had a 10-day depression period, and this is Christmas এর সময়, আমার সব ফ্রেন্ডরা নাই, আমি জাস্ট একা একা বসে আছি। হ্যাঁ, সো এখানে 2টা ডিসিশন নিয়েছিলাম অ্যাকচুয়ালি, অ্যান্ড আই থিঙ্ক আই চুজ দ্য রং ডিসিশনস। নাম্বার 1 ডিসিশন ওয়াজ সান ফ্রান্সিসকো বসে উই রেজিস্টার দ্য কোম্পানি ইন, সো বেসিক্যালি দ্য থিঙ্কিং ওয়াজ যে YCombinator গেলে ওরা কী করতো, লেটস রেপ্লিকেট দ্যাট। হ্যাঁ, সো ওরা কোম্পানি ফর্ম করে তো ইউএসএ, ওকে, ফর্ম আ কোম্পানি ইন দ্য ইউএস। সো ক্লার্কিতে গিয়ে ওরা ক্লার্কি ইউজ করে কোম্পানি ফর্ম করে ফেললো, এক নাম্বার। আর সেকেন্ড ডিসিশন, তখন at that point I was also studying a lot of things, and I bought a Bitcoin in 2013 December. For like a Bitcoin, it is I think my price at that point was $230. So I should have focused more on the Bitcoin, because I was correct on that. So amra jodi ekta Bitcoin casino banaitam, we would be like, we would be able to do a lot more good, but no regrets. Right. So so register করার পরে জানুয়ারিতে এখন সব ভিসিডিসি সব ব্যাক করছে। আমি জাস্ট না র্যান্ডমলি মানুষের অফিসে যাই, মানুষকে ইমেল করি, এই করি, হ্যান করি, একটা ডেক বানাইছি কোনো মতে, হ্যাঁ, পাঠাই, কেউ না আমার সাথে কথা বলে না, মানে কথা বলে দিয়ে 1-2 জন কথা বলতে সান্ত্বনা দিয়ে গোবে, হ্যাঁ, রাইট, নাথিং।
বাট ভাই, মানে জাস্ট টু ডাবল ক্লিক অন দিস, ইউ আর আ Wharton graduate at that point. And I'm guessing that also holds some weight.
Yes, but you don't get to say that you're a Wharton graduate, or they don't get to register. So in fact, that helped me. So একদিন আমি ডিসাইড করলাম যে হবে না, Wharton টি-শার্ট পরে এখন যাবো।
Yes,
that was the decision. যে Wharton টি-শার্ট আছে, Wharton টি-শার্ট পরে আমি এখন মিটিংয়ে যাবো। হ্যাঁ, সো কোথায় যাই, 500 স্টার্টআপসের অফিসে গেছি। 500 স্টার্টআপের দরজা বন্ধ, দেখি একজন বার হচ্ছে, ও লিফটে উঠতেছে, আমি ওর সাথে লিফটে উঠলাম। লিফটে উঠে, মানে লিফটে তো ওর কোথাও যেতে পারতেছে, আমি ওদের জোর করে বললাম যে এই বাংলাদেশে স্টার্টআপ করতেছি, এই লিফট, মানে পিপল টক অ্যাবাউট এলিভেটর পিচ। মাই ফার্স্ট সাকসেসফুল পিচ ওয়াজ ইনসাইড অ্যান এলিভেটর। মানে
আচ্ছা, স্টোরি একটু বুঝাই বলুন। মানে আমি জানি Wharton মানে টি-শার্ট কেন পরছেন, বাট আমাদের একটু বুঝাই বলুন
কি,
মানে হোয়াট ওয়াজ দ্য রিজনিং? হ্যাঁ, ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু সিগন্যাল দ্যাট হ্যাঁ ইউ আর লেজিট অর সামথিং লাইক দ্যাট, এন্ড দেন
না, but it's all about, it's not about what you say, right? There is a thing about set and setting, right? So set and setting basically is non-verbal cues that you're giving other people to to get your message across, right? So lift থেকে নেমে বলি, আচ্ছা, you are doing this in Bangladesh, okay, you went to Wharton, okay, আচ্ছা, I'm not an investor, I'm just an advisor here, but what I'll do is I'll invite you to an event. তারপরে সে তার ল্যাপটপ খুলে he bought a $20 ticket. So that was the first money that anyone decided to invest on Chaldal. যে ওকে $20 টিকিট দিয়ে একটা ইভেন্ট আসে। সো এটার পরে মানে অ্যান্ড আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড মাই স্টেট অফ মাইন্ড অ্যাট দ্যাট পয়েন্ট। দিস ইজ ভালো কথা। এখন আই এম থিঙ্কিং যে কি করবো মানে কোম্পানি তো হইলো না, টাকা পেলাম না, দিস ইজ অলরেডি লাইক 1 month after, more than 30-40 days after we got rejected from YCombinator and decided যে আমি আমেরিকাতে শোবো না without getting money. হ্যাঁ, আর এদিকে কোম্পানি আছে, কোম্পানিতে 15-20 জন মানুষ আছে, মানে that's not a big concern. Now it's a bigger concern. এখন কি হবে, but at that point it was not that was my I will have to go back to like doing what. So that was my state of mind. So ওই স্টেট অফ মাইন্ডে গিয়ে আমি ওই একটা ওদের মানে মিক্সার পার্টি, মানে আমাদের এখানে যেরকম হয় যে ইউ গো দেয়ার, ইউ গো টক টু পিপল, ওখানে গিয়ে আমি যাকে পাইছি তাকে সেল করার চেষ্টা করছি। ফাইনালি আই কর্নার্ড ডেভ ম্যাকলিওর। হ্যাঁ, ডেভ ম্যাকলিওর আই নিউ হিজ ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড, যে সে his strategy was spray and pray. Right. This is my guy.
Perfect.
This is my guy. Dave McLeodকে বললাম, ডেভ ম্যাকলিওরকে কোথায় করে তার কাছ থেকে তার ফোন নাম্বারটা নিলাম। ফোন নাম্বার নেওয়ার পরে, and at that back then I don't think I was using WhatsApp, and I don't think WhatsApp was also that popular.
Right.
I texted Dave McLeod every day for the next 4 or 5 days. Then পরে একদিন বলতে আচ্ছা কালকে সকালে আমি ব্রেকফাস্ট করতেছি এখানে অফিসের নিচে, ইউ কাম। ব্রেকফাস্টে গেছি, ব্রেকফাস্টে গিয়ে ডেভ ম্যাকলিওডের সব কিছু বুঝাই টুজায়, ও সেও শুনতেছে। তারপরে সে বললো আচ্ছা হ্যাঁ তারপরে কি, তারপরে আমি ফাইনালি বললাম যে দেখো আমার মনে হয় কি I'll be able to get drone deliveries done faster in Bangladesh than it will be allowed in the US. বলে কেন? বলে you have too many laws. In Bangladesh, like if you do something exciting, you'll be able to nudge the laws. এইটা শুনে he got like okay, মাথায় মনে কিছু একটা আছে। হ্যাঁ, and he was like okay, so we'll do this term, that term, the term ছিল। তারপরে 3-4 মাস পরে টাকা দিল। That was মানে till that money hit your account, you're still like your throats are being choked, right? Like you're having existential crisis every day, every hour. And this sort of event has happened. Like basically most of the existential crisis, I mean operational crisis so high. It's not the operational crisis হয় না, but mostly it comes from this existential crisis গুলো আসলে ফান্ডিং থেকে। I mean we have had crisis যেখানে পুলিশ গাড়ি নিয়ে ধরে নিয়ে গেছে, we have crisis যেখানে like someone beat me up randomly. তারপরে হলো গিয়ে we had a crisis যেখানে I thought যে someone had been taken for ransom. মানে these are okay, but এগুলো না is nothing compared to the existential crisis of the company. So we have that.
Someone held you for ransom?
No, someone did not help me for. I thought someone had held Zia for ransom, and they were asking money from me, and I got very serious about that.
Oh, wow.
Because Zia was delivering in Rohingya camp, এবং আমাকে 1 ঘন্টা পর ফোন করে বলছে ম্যান আরো 50,000 টাকা লাগবে, আরো 1 এখানে লেবারের চার্জ দিতে হবে, ট্রাকের ভাড়া দিতে হবে। হোয়াট, এরকম টাকা নিচ্ছে কেন? But it was genuine expense, but I got alert because he asked for money 3 times in like 4 hours.
And it kept like doubling and tripling.
ট্রাকের ভাড়া আমরা ট্রাকের ভাড়া কক্সবাজারে গিয়ে তখন আবার ট্রাকলা যাবে না, এখানে বিকাশ করে টাকা পাঠাবে। I mean okay fine, I need to like raise the alarm. And after that like we got JS quoted with the police etc. world. we
And did you mentioned you got beaten up, did that actually happen, or was that like also near?
No, that also happened. That happened in Mohli DHS. Mohli na, sorry, Mirpur DHS.
For Chaldal stuff?
Oh yeah. গাড়ি ডেলিভারি করতে গেছে, গাড়ি ডেলিভারি দিবে না। সো গাড়িতে ডেলিভারি গাড়ি আটকে রাখছে। কেন গাড়ি আটকে রাখছেন কেন? এই অর্ডার আছে আছে ডেলিভারি দিবেন, গাড়ি আটকে রাখছে আর গাড়ি আটকেছে। ওকে গো টু মিরপুর ডিএচএস। মিরপুর ডিএচএসে গিয়ে কেন দিবেন না, এই দিবেন না, গাড়ি যাও, আমি কথা বলবো। কথা বলতেছি, this guy, we hand then something, and I had my hands in my pocket, and he was like, হাত বার করবেন কেন? হাত বার করবো, আমার হাত আমার পকেটে থাকবে। That was my statement. This really annoyed the guy. He was like some probably ex-military warrant officer or something like that. সে সেরকম গলার মধ্যে চাপ দিছে, সে গলার মধ্যে চাপ দিছে, আমি দেখে থাপ্পড় দিছি। And at that point they started beating me up, and then like Zia was there. Zia somehow like got like other people involved to stop it, but that was like serious.
Oh wow. Yeah,
but it was serious mind. 4-5 জন মিলে।
Oh man.
So
শুরু করব, চলেন শুরু করি। প্রোডাক্ট ম্যানেজমেন্ট দেশে এবং বিদেশে একটা পপুলার ক্যারিয়ার ট্র্যাক হয়ে উঠেছে, অথচ এটার কোনো ফর্মাল এডুকেশন বা ট্রেনিং এর সুযোগ আজ পর্যন্ত নাই। এই কারণে আমি এই কোর্সটা তৈরি করেছি, যাতে আমি যা জানি এবং ইন্টারনেটে যতটুকু আমি নলেজ গ্যাদার করতে পেরেছি এবং আরও কিছু প্রোডাক্ট ম্যানেজার দেশে বিদেশ সব জায়গা থেকে আমি নিয়ে এসে আপনাদের জন্য একটা প্রপার রিসোর্স আমি তৈরি করতে পারি। আমার নাম ফাহাদ, সিনিয়র ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট এবং হেড অফ প্রোডাক্ট হিসেবে কাজ করছি পাঠাও। আমি আশা করি প্রোডাক্ট ম্যানেজমেন্টে ক্যারিয়ার গড়তে আপনাদের এই কোর্সটা অত্যন্ত কাজে লাগবে। দেশে এবং বিদেশে এই ফিল্ডে ভালো কিছু করার সুযোগ ইনশাল্লাহ আপনারা পাবেন।
You couldn't have this much fun though doing anything else. আপনি সৌদি ফান্ড ম্যানেজ করলে এত মজা পাইতেন না?
I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You only have one path that you've traveled.
That is true. Hard to know the counterfactual.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. So we were talking about lowlights. YCombinator থেকে রিজেক্ট হওয়ার স্টোরিটা বললেন।
YCombinator accept হওয়ার story. Oh, accept হওয়ার সময় by the time we got accepted, এটা আরো 1.5 বছর পরে, একবার রিজেক্ট হওয়ার পরে 1.5 বছর পরে অ্যাপ্লাই করছি। At that point, like, you know, we had like 100 people, etc. I mean, I knew everything. I mean, this is the startup, this is the reason, this is, I mean, we were like prepared as anything. Programme shop essay পড়া শেষ, হ্যাঁ, কে ইন্টারভিউ করবে ওর 14 গোষ্ঠী সব কিছু জানা শেষ, হ্যাঁ।
Right.
We entered the interview. It was like 4 YC partner. I think Aaron and I think we got Kevin again, and Aaron, Kevin.
Yeah. Aaron from Box, right?
No. Aaron Harris. He does the he had sold a startup at that point. Okay. And Kevin Hale was that online survey form thing.
Okay.
So and Cat. These three were the people in my interview. There was a fourth person I don't remember, but these three were our partners.
Okay.
Oh, interview was like perfect.
Yeah.
মানে perfect মানে কি? ওরা question করার আগেই আমি তাকে আনসার দিয়েছি, হ্যাঁ।
Yeah.
And you know, usually YCombinator interview is like 10 minutes. I think we finished in like 7 minutes. Like, okay, go away. And then, okay, we are done. Then we got a call. You are accepted. Come. But ওখানে আরো একটা জিনিস ছিল. At that point, I think Parker was at his like, you know, Zenith's glory. Yeah. And Parker had recommended. So আমাকে একজন পার্টনার বলছে, ম্যান, আমি তোমাদের অ্যাপ্লিকেশন নিতে দিয়েছিলাম, ওরা আমার কাছে জোর করে নিয়ে গেছে। Because Parker আমাদেরকে রেকমেন্ডেশন দিয়েছে।
Yeah, no, it's full circle. I also want to ask you, for let's say যারা ফাউন্ডার বা ফিউচার ফাউন্ডার যারা শুনতেছেন, তারা হয়তো বা চিন্তা করতেছে কোন জিনিসগুলো আপনি চেঞ্জ করেছেন বা কোন জিনিসগুলো ইমপ্রুভ করেছেন from being rejected to accepted at YCombinator. If you had to kind of off the top of your head 2 or 3 things.
Execution, traction. I'm tractionের চার্ট দিয়ে গেছি যে এই হলো month by month traction.
Right.
I got my application. Programme এসে পরে application কারো concise করা শিখছি. The application, the quality of the application really matters. Well, we got the interview both times, right? So first application was good enough that it got an interview with Programme, but we had traction, and we were more prepared and we were more organized, and product ছিল order দিচ্ছি মানে so you know, it's just the traction, I think, that counts. The higher the traction, the better chance you have.
Got it. And also just going back to Dave McClure কে এমন কি বলেছিলেন that he said yes?
Dave McClure সব কিছু বললাম, মানে his strategy is pray and pray, right? মানে you have to find someone who cares about it. বাংলাদেশ নিয়ে যে স্কুল, বাংলাদেশ নিয়ে মানে আমি তাকে বাংলাদেশ নিয়ে আপডেট করলাম, করলাম, but I mean I don't remember. I think the drone thing is the one that ticked him off. Like, okay, these guys can think long term, because he had nothing to decide on. Like, you know, we didn't have traction. We didn't have random একটা লোক এসে কথা বলতেছে.
And basically, I guess মানে the lesson here is there's probably an investor যার থেকে আপনি yes পাবেন, even if it's not YCombinator শুরুতে. Like, you know, you have to take the first check.
Yeah, but see, the it's a density of investors that matters, right? So basically, মানে let's say the density of investor in Bangladesh may be 1 in 50 lakhs, right? Whereas the density of investor in San Francisco is probably 1 in 10,000, right? And that's what makes San Francisco San Francisco.
Right. I know YCombinator sorry, I'm going.
But actually, I will caveat that by saying that in this day and age, like most of my last 3 fundraise were done completely online.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, YCombinator একটা application question থাকে. I don't know if this was there in 2013 or 14, but what's one hack that you did that's not
so we had a very good hack. So basically Tejas তখন Uber launch হয়েছে. So Uber launch হওয়ার পর Uber used to give a referral code. So Tejas figured out যে এই referral কোডটা দিয়ে যদি সে Google AdWord run করে, with like every like $50 you could get like $5,000 in Uber credit. So আমরা 2013 anywhere we would go we'd take a Uber. San Francisco যাচ্ছি $200 বিয়ে Uber. We all used to use the same account and go. And it was legit, like because সবাই সার্চ করলে ফার্স্ট রেজাল্ট হয়েছে অপটিমাইজ করে বসে আছে.
Oh man, how much Tejas bhai কত টাকা কামাইছে just doing
I don't know, but it's uncountable. But at one point Uber called and like took away all the credit. But we had by then মানে 3-4 জন মিলে হয়তো বা $7,000 ইউজ করে ফেলছি.
Wow, that's very exciting. Okay, so you started. Sorry, one second. So you started in 2013, and then you had to hire 100 people by the time YCombinator আবার accept হয়েছে.
No, we didn't have to hire 100. We had hired as a result of us growing and all of that.
Bad phrasing. You ended up hiring 100 people by that time. Today, how many people work at Chaldal?
2,600, 2,500, 2,600.
2,500, 2,600 people. এর মধ্যে আপনার অনেক হায়ারিং করতে হয়েছে. So I just want to ask you, do you think you're a good judge of people?
No, I'm a terrible judge of people. I used to be a better judge.
Okay.
In this day and age, like anyone who comes in front of me gets hired. I see some good quality in that person. So we have much stricter filter. Same with Tejas as well. Anyone who gets in front of Tejas will find some good quality, some reason to hire him. Okay. So we have to have like filters, like on the engineering application, like they have to pass like tests, then they will get to Tejas. For me, basically, I don't even do interviews anymore. Hiring na, amar jodi kono specific kono ekta pain thake je, I want someone to, let's say, look at perishable, then I'll find that person, I'll go talk to the person. But I don't generally hire. I haven't hired personally for like 4 or 5 years. প্রথম দিকে যাদেরকে হায়ার করেছি সকলকে ফ্রেন্ড, বন্ধু ছাড়া লাইফ ইম্পসিবল. So like আমাদের চিফ অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টকে মিজানকে আমি কীভাবে চিনি, মিজানের সাথে তো আমি ক্রিকেট খেলতাম ছোটোবেলায়. আমাদের প্রোডাক্টকে ক্যাটালগকে রান করবে নায়েব মানে আমার বাডি, লাইক they're still there.
Right.
I think people underestimate the value of trust. If you have like implicit trust, it makes things so much easier, so much smoother, that it's actually a hack. That you just get your trusted people and keep running.
I want to shift gears a bit. We talked about YCombinator. আমি একটু IFC নিয়ে কথা বলতে চাই. আপনি অনেকবার মেনশন করেছেন যে IFC এর ইনভেস্টমেন্টটা অত্যন্ত ক্রিটিক্যাল ছিল ফর Chaldal's survival, growth, and again, correct me if I'm phrasing this incorrectly, and could you kind of mention how IFC's investment came to be and what role it played in Chaldal's growth?
Okay, so IFC's investment 2014 একেলন হয়েছিল. So একেলনের মধ্যে আমি আর তেজাস পার্টিসিপেট করে we had this huge chart, আমাদের traction. By that point we know that the only thing that matters is traction. So traction and chart দিছি, একটা বাংলাদেশের GDP growth chart দিছি. That was our entire stall. Right. So we didn't get any investment from there. We didn't get any investment from there, but what happened was that someone from IFC had walked in. I was like, we want to get investment from IFC, etc. So we talked for like 5-10 minutes. তারপরে ওর কার্ড দিছে, ওর জীবনে আমাকে রিপ্লাইও করে নাই. So this was 2014. আচ্ছা, 2000 তারপরে YCombinator হয়েছে. YCombinator পরে we raised quite a bit of money. At one point I had to say আর টাকা দিব না, because we were one of the best performing companies in our batch in terms of like both traction and revenue. YCombinator এর মধ্যে. So and I was like, okay, this is enough money for 2 years. Let's execute, come back. Let's execute, come back. When I went back, I had meetings with Andreessen, I had meetings with Founders Fund, I spoke to Sequoia, I spoke to Sequoia India's সাথে, বাট আমেরিকার মোটামুটি সবার সাথে 3-4টা বড় বড় সবারই গিয়ে একটা জায়গায় আটকে যায় যে আচ্ছা বাংলাদেশে এখন গিয়ে বোর্ডে কে বসবে বসবে মানে when they're giving you যে 10 লাখ টাকা 50 লাখ টাকা etc. they don't care about governance but when you're asking for like 5 million 10 million then they care about governance. So I think basically I could not get anyone. Right. And at that point, someone put us in touch with IFC. Yeah? And similarly, I had also so the Pravan. Pravan was actually a member of IC. By then, he had become a member of an investment company. I had LinkedIn a message kursi. Pravan ke. So these two clicked, and IFC got on a call. IFC got on a call, and IFC had Ruchira. So Ruchira is the head of South Asia. Yeah. So Ruchira is the head of South Asia. And I think within IFC also it was difficult. So she had to take a call in terms of, doing it in Bangladesh. She has to go beyond her regular, অনেক process change করতে হবে Bangladesh first VC investment. But we had a call, one call or two calls I think we had, and then Ruchira said, okay, we're coming to visit Bangladesh. Bangladesh আসছে, then they saw us, and then they went and did the thing. But I think a lot of things needed to be aligned, right. If you didn't have the right people at the right year, and that 2014 meeting where right. He was like, oh, I remember these guys, you don't know, you can only connect the dots going backwards, right? So yeah, and I've seen bhitere Wharton and Manoj Bhakti.
So that always helps. Okay, so what role do you think, I guess, knowing the right people at the right time played in all of this? How much would you attribute that to success?
I mean,
so is it 100 or 99 or?
It's very hard to say.
Yeah.
Because it's like saying, can you make lebu sharbut without lebu? What percentage of lebu sharbut is lebu versus water? It's not about the content, right? It's the combination of things. It's like, few things need to come together,
right,
for that to happen. And I refer to Mark Anderson, or actually 4 kinds of luck, right? So basically, you want to stir the pot, etc., etc. So I think it's always beneficial to connect to people, but you have to have a level of spam filter, because at the end of the day, you have 24 hours in a day. How many people can you meet? But at the early stages, your time is worth shit. So go and meet as many people as you can, and then you get better at filtering the meetings, right? So I think meeting people is super important. Even I think Bangladesh, if someone had to let's say Bcash, right? I'm sure that Kamal Bhai also had a lot of these meetings, Mr. Ahmed not being Mr. Ahmed. I don't think if he was not there, Bcash would have had a more difficult journey, right? So the right people matter. But I would also I don't know if this is really good advice. But I have personally tried to avoid people where I had a ring. আগানো দরকার নেই. What's the point? Alignment আমি যখনই দেখছি, and the way I get rewarded in that is that in terms of decision making, control, etc. I have full understanding of the investor base. Every single person who's invested in Chaldal, I've spoken to them personally. Or actually there were some syndicates যেখানে সবার সাথে আমি কথা বলি, but they're very small parts. But knowing the investor, I think matters. But you could also hire someone, hire an iBanker to get it. But although we have never had much success with investment bankers.
Okay, give us a sense of where Chaldal is today, and then I'll kind of take it from there. But don't be humble, or up to you. Tell us how many employees, how much funding you've raised, what scale how many deliveries, if you're comfortable, how many eggs you're selling. যেভাবে ইচ্ছা আপনি একটু আমাদেরকে sense of scale বলেন, because I'm
sense of scale. Actually, sense of scale is I think it's very small, by the way. I think it's
compared to where it can be,
or compared to Walmart. Okay. So Walmart is $500 billion in revenue. Amazon is $200 billion in revenue. Compared to Amazon, Walmart, we're still tiny.
Right.
So right now it's 2,600 people. আমরা daily এখন 8,000 8,000 প্লাস মতো ডেলিভারি করি ইনফ্যাক্ট একটু হয়তো বা কমছে বিকজ আমি ঢাকার বাইরে কয়েকটা অফ করছি we were on a super fast trajectory right after COVID মানে it's like that kind of growth you know we had like 2 periods of really fast like uncontrollable growth. One was during YC, because we were working as hard, and other was during COVID. মানে YC তে COVID এর সময় মানে you know
সবাই অনলাইন অর্ডার করছিল।
Turn off the orders. Basically আমাদের তখন আসতে 2,000 2,500 অর্ডার আসতে পার ডে। হ্যাঁ তো একদিন রাত্রে আই থিঙ্ক 23 তারিখ or 22 তারিখ রাত্রে আমি ঘুমাইতে গেছি 12টার সময় মানে I saw the previous day order 2300 এটা দেখে আমি ঘুমাইতে গেছি। I woke up at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. 18,000 orders in 7 hours and the day had not even started. I called up Tejas, I was like, we are set off koro, let us deliver. Other thing that happened was, so COVID was really fast, but COVID pore basically, you know, a few things have affected us. One of them was the e-valley crisis. And there's no denying that has hurt. And I think
ট্রাস্ট কমে গেছে তাই না
ট্রাস্ট কমে গেছে তারপরে উই গট মানে তখনও যখন আমরা ফান্ডিং রেজ করতে ট্রাই করছি উই গট ফান্ডিং টার্ম শিট ইন লাইক ইউ নো month 2 month and then we were like on a very nice trajectory like and we had like a really large term sheet coming etc and then basically Ukraine war happened and Fed started raising rates and Sri Lanka went bankrupt and that put the company for the last 7-8 months in a very pressurized situation in the sense that we had to shift focus from growth to basically profitability means survival, right? So last 6-7 months has been just like make things better, and I think this is the right path. So we are still doing like 8,000 orders. We're still acquiring like 30,000-40,000 customers a day. ডিম মনে হয় ডেইলি 6,000-7,000 ডজন মানে 70,000 to 80,000 ডিম বিক্রি করি it's a lot of eggs
lots of eggs I want to ask you about a specific picture if you'll indulge me so this picture so for those in the audience আমি দিয়ে দিব এটা স্ক্রিনে but who are the other two people in this picture one of them of course is an author of the book that is right here but could you tell us more about the two people in this picture and how it came to be
Oh, okay. So YC te basically there's a week where before you start pitching to investors, you get a practice round to pitch with investor.
Achha.
And I think YC's philosophy is to get like really hardcore investors so that your practice is like super good.
Right.
So luckily, I had my practice pitch was with Vinod and Ben Horowitz. And luckily they fell right after each other একটা 9 am একটা 9:30 am and Vinod Khosla Ben Horowitz এখন তো ওরা দুজন দু রুমে বসছে এখন তো আমি দুই রুমে ভাই আসেন একসাথে ছবি তুলি so they basically I think Ben Horowitz came into the room or Vinod Khosla came into the room as I was exiting Ben Horowitz I was like man I will never get this opportunity again I was like I want to take a picture with both of you I took the picture but on the same day I actually had a half an hour conversation with each of them and I pitched them Chaldal.
Very cool. So I'm going to stay on this course of all the people you've met. I think apne ekbar you might have slipped your resume or something on a napkin to Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger or one of them.
No. Warren Buffett ke ami ekhon majhe majhe চিঠি লিখি
Okay, bole. Tell us more. What was the story?
But so I mean Warren Buffett ke I think from our university we went to one of the guys in one of my classes actually was intern at Berkshire and he was very well connected with Berkshire so he was like acha amra class e shobai ke niye amra jabo Warren Buffett se dekho so when it was like 50 people Warren Buffett 50 people so Warren Buffett gave a speech for 2 hours etc
you went to Omaha
we went to Omaha Warren Buffett দিয়ে আমাদেরকে তার রেস্টুরেন্ট যেটাতে বার্গার খায় সেখানে খাওয়াইছে etc and we got to ask everything and when I met him I said that I want to work for this guy so I wrote a letter and I gave him সে আবার পকেটে ঢুকাই রাখছে একদম পুরো হার্ড মানে একদম হার্ড কপি আর কি এই হলো কি ফার্স্ট ইন্টারাকশন সো ওখানে সো দ্যাট ওয়াজ ইন 2007 I think And then like I wrote to Warren Buffett like 2 বছর আগে আমি লিখছি যে দেখো I think this is like really efficient, আমার venture capital পাই না, but Berkshire দেখতেছি পেটিএম এ ইনভেস্ট করতেছে, why don't you so এটা রিপ্লাই আসছে, his peer reply there, Mr. Buffett read your letter but must decline. So I'm okay, fine. So
yeah, interesting. Okay, now I want to switch gears a bit. আপনারা patent hold করেন. You hold, if I'm not wrong, maybe 2 or 3? 2.
I think 3 patents we hold, or দুইটা হইছে একটা হয় নাই or something like that.
আপনারা কেন patent, মানে I know what the usual motivation is, it's to secure some IP or protect some intellectual property and so on and so forth, but আপনারা কিভাবে how did you get on the path of applying for patents and kind of holding them, and what are the patents about?
Okay, so number one is that patent in this day and age is more of a defensive tactic, right? So that someone else can't sue you. So I think at some point Tejas was in some sort of lecture where they said the importance of patent কি, so খুব ইন্সপায়ার্ড হয়ে বলে আচ্ছা না আমাদেরও কিছু প্যাটেন্ট করা উচিত। তাহলে কি আইডিয়া আছে আমাদের, জেনুইন আইডিয়া কি আছে? আচ্ছা মাইক্রো ওয়্যার হাউস, মানে we had a robotic armored idea, which we had not read anywhere, যে how do you pack something in a 3D cube, and then I think we had another idea around onboarding people by taking like selfies and creating a chain. So এরকম 2-3টা আইডিয়ার মানে we got a patent on, যে কি আইডিয়া আছে ওগুলো লিস্ট করে প্যাটেন্ট করে ফেলছি। সো আর মানে that was the it. So you hire a patent lawyer, you pay him like $1,000, you get they make the application, you tell them the gist of it, they'll do the work and get it.
Very interesting. Staying on the course of technology, মানুষজন যখন চাল ডালের কথা প্রথমে চিন্তা করে তারা ইউজুয়ালি চাল ডাল আর ডিম এইসব নিয়েই চিন্তা করে, রাইট? দে থিঙ্ক অফ অল দ্য থিংস দ্যাট ইউ আর ডেলিভারিং অ্যান্ড অল দ্য থিংস দ্যাট আর অ্যাভেলেবল, বাট পিছনে যে এত টেকনোলজি আছে এটা ইজ ভেরি নন অবভিয়াস অ্যান্ড ফর গুড রিজন। ইউ প্রবলি ওয়ান্ট টু abstract away all the complexity that goes behind. Could you give us a sense of মানে আপনাদের কি ধরনের প্রযুক্তি আসলে ব্যবহার করেন ব্যাকএন্ডে টু মেক ডেলিভারি টাইমস ফাস্টার, টু মেক ইনভেন্টরি ওয়ার্ক, টু মেক কত কোন ওয়্যারহাউসে কি আছে না আছে এই সব কিছু আপনারা, হোয়াট ইজ দ্য লেভেল অফ or the detail to which or what's the tech that goes behind?
আমি একবার I was in a lecture with someone who runs DARPA. So DARPA is US government-এর military মানে এখান থেকে ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়াইড ওয়েব আসছে, তারপরে ওয়াইফাই আসছে, অনেক কিছু ওরা ফান্ডিং করছে। সো মিলিটারি ফান্ডিং আর্ম, সো আ লট অফ রিসার্চ। সো শি সেড one interesting thing, which was that what is the success of DARPA? I measured by one thing, which is যে আমরা আগে যখন একটা মিসাইল ফালাইতাম, our area of accuracy would be like half a square kilometer. These days we can get it down to 50 meter or something, 50 square meters. So that level of accuracy is the technology of DARPA. So it struck me যে আচ্ছা এটা তো টেকনোলজি। সো আমি এখন চিন্তা করি যে আমরা যে ডেলিভারি দিতেছি, ডেলিভারি টাইম কমিট করতেছি, এই টাইমে তো ভ্যারিয়েন্স আছে। সো আগে হয়তো ভ্যারিয়েন্সটা হয়তো হলো 6 ঘন্টা কি 4 ঘন্টা। এই ভ্যারিয়েন্সটা আমি যত কমাতে পারবো তত কিন্তু ইটস হার্ডার অ্যান্ড হার্ডার। মানে পিপল ডোন্ট রিয়েলাইজ হাউ হার্ড ইট ইজ টু গেট দ্য ডেলিভারি টাইম এক্স্যাক্ট। লাইক একটা যদি আমার ডেলিভারি পার্সনকে পুলিশ আটকায়, your delivery time will be delayed, right? But then we have to track like what percentage of time like পুলিশ আটকাতে পারে, কোন রাস্তার মধ্যে পুলিশ আটকাতে পারে, ওটা কীভাবে ট্র্যাকিং করা যায়, ওই রুটগুলো কীভাবে অ্যাভয়েড করা যায়। we have to track যে কোন রাস্তার মধ্যে পটহোল আছে, কোথায় মিলাদ হচ্ছে, like all of this and route it. Basically it's a very difficult technology. I think Chaldal is a pretty difficult technology in the sense that we are trying to deliver perishables in profitably in 1 hour, right? And
triple whammy.
So this is not a solved problem in the world. But it's not that Amazon has this delivery mechanism.
Right.
Amazon is able to deliver you things next day, dry things. So like in order to get all of that right, like you have to like say perishable item. The first thing that you need to understand is that if you are not able to sell your perishable item, you're gonna lose money. Simple as that. Like every day you buy like 20 kgs of tomato. If you can't sell 20 kgs of tomato, gone.
Right.
If you buy 20 kgs of tomato but you get an order for 40 kgs of tomato, what do? You're not able to serve your customer. So that algorithm needs to be accurate, and that prediction algorithm involves you predicting je Eid kobe, hortal kobe, কোন এলাকা customer মানে a lot of data goes into it. Data science, like this is the data science. We use data for something simple to know how much tomato to stock up for tomorrow, or think of something even more perishable than tomato, like dhone pata, right? Like you can't. So obviously the same problem is faced by small vegetable owners as well, but they are not trying to serve a lot of customers, right? So যা সেল হচ্ছে এটা বিক্রি করে আজকে সেল করতে পারলে শেষ, বাট আমাদের তো সেটা না, আমাদের লোকে কাস্টমার আসলে সার্ভিস দিতে হবে। রাত 12টার সময় টমেটো দরকার, রাত 12টার সময় টমেটো যেতে হবে, অ্যান্ড উই হ্যাভ টু এনশিওর যে টমেটো ইজ ফ্রেশ। কারণ বাজার রানস অ্যাট রাত 12টা, হ্যাঁ, সো ইউর টমেটো ফর দ্য নেক্সট ডে ইফ ইট কামস ফ্রম কারণ বাজার ইটস নট গোইং টু বি এনাফ। ইউ হ্যাভ টু হ্যাভ লাইক সাপ্লাই চেইন বিল্ট আপ ইন দ্য মিডল। Every time you have to load, unload, you have to you're losing you're losing money. You're losing money. Human effort leads to more things being more expensive. So we have to be very optimal about it's like industrial engineering in the garments factory to করে যে কিভাবে মোশন কমানো যায়। হ্যাঁ, সো আমাদের ইন্টারনালি যে টেকনোলজি অবভিয়াসলি সফটওয়্যার সাইডে তো অনেক আছে, বাট উই অলসো হ্যাভ টাইম মোশন কি যেন একটা স্টাডি বলে, এরকম জিনিস আমাদের ইন্টারনালি হচ্ছে যে প্যাকেটের মধ্যে কয়বার সিল দিবে, একটা সিল যদি বেশি দেয়, হ্যাঁ, দিস উইল কস্ট মি মাসে 4 লাখ টাকা। I'm not even kidding. Because of the scale of things that we are dealing with, we have to be very, very careful. মানুষজন আমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করে why we don't give bags. ঠিক আছে, এক ব্যাগের দাম কত? ব্যাগের দাম is not much. Like একটা average ব্যাগে যদি প্রত্যেকটা ব্যাগে যদি আমরা একটা করে অর্ডার দিতে লাগে, it would cost us only 7 টাকা. It's not a lot of money. But when you multiply it by 7 actually, একটা দুইটা ব্যাগ দিয়ে লাগবে 12 টাকার মতন যাবে, মানে অ্যাভারেজ, কিছু কিছু ছোট অর্ডার, কিছু কিছু বড় অর্ডার, মানে অল দিস আর 12 টাকার মতন যাবে। 12 টাকা ইজ নট আ লট অফ মানি। 12 টাকা এখন যদি আমি 8,000 দিয়ে মাল্টিপ্লাই করি, দ্যাটস 1 লাখ টাকা পার ডে। হ্যাঁ, and you multiply by 30, that's 30 lakh taka per month. With 30 lakh taka per month I can set up a warehouse. And then I did a study on how many people actually want a bag. And actually it's like 7 to 8% of the people, right? So you have to make this decision. These seem very simple decisions, but the sort of data and everything you have to make this based on is critical, like and you have to have the data collection mechanism, like প্রত্যেকবার ডিম প্রত্যেকটা স্টেজে কত পার্সেন্ট ভাঙতেছে, 0.1% ডিম ভাঙা মানে it's probably equal to my salary for the month. Like if I can reduce like daily প্রতি 1 লাখ পিসের মধ্যে যদি আমি মানে 0.1% is what, like 10টাকে যদি 5টা করতে পারি, that's significant gains, right? But at every stage you have to figure that out, and that includes people moving in the warehouse, কিভাবে পিকিং করবে, তাড়াতাড়ি পিকিং করবে, people delivering, কিভাবে ডেলিভারি করবে, কোন ব্যাগগুলো নেবে, all of that. Prediction, supply side bidding platforms, মানে all of this needs to be built.
Efficiency shows up at scale.
I mean, you won't scale unless you're efficient. Someone more efficient will scale.
Interesting. Okay. Could you tell us about something very simple? Your first customer outside of friends and family.
I don't remember. I actually don't know who that person is. I mean, I'm not able to recall them. But one of the early customers, early customer was. He was king of Dhaka. He was
with that Zia Bhai, right?
No. Mr. Shahzaman Muzumdar. So he used to run a IT company, and he at that point Dappers I think used to be his thing, and he had a thing in Shonaga. So Zia went and talked to him for an entire day, and he was with one of he's passed away, but he was one of the most loyal customers. Every month 3 tarikher moddhe ekta order asতো.
Oh, Jos. Is that where Zia Bhai
that Zia ripped his ear from him?
So for those wondering, I mean, কি বলতেছি, Zia Bhai, Zia Ashraf Bhai, ওনার co-founder, he has his tag alongside him, মানে WhatsApp
King of
Bangladesh, that's his alias, right? It's very funny and interesting.
No, he wants to launch a shirt brand with it someday.
Ooh, okay, cool. You heard it here first. Okay, a few more things. So 10 years later, since you first started 10 years later since you first started Chaldal, if you were on the other side of the table now writing a check for someone else, কোন কোয়ালিটিগুলো would you look for in the founder or the team or the idea or the product? What would you emphasize on and what would you look for?
Well, first of all, I don't think I would make a very good angel investor because I'm too detail oriented. So I think you have to have a lot of faith on the founders. That's what has worked. Like, you know, back smart guys, back guys who are good. And I don't know if I am too good at detecting that. But, you know, I mean, if I were to to be able to successfully detect things, I mean, I would like ask সকালে তেজে আমাকে একটা কথা বলছে সেটা বলছে যে anyone who wants work-life balance, we should stop hiring them. ঠিক আছে?
You need to be hardcore.
I mean, I completely agree, and I think like like you know, if you're looking for like, you know, starting a startup, like, you know, and having a work-life balance, like, okay, fine, like, you know, find another angel investor. It's not going to be me. You're doing the startup because you want to beat the average. And no matter how smart you are or how much tool you have, someone working harder will end up beating you because, you know, it's just how much time you put in. So working hard, obviously, well, going back to Warren Buffett, I think he says that we look for three things. Number one is intelligence. So if someone is brilliant, back him. Number two is energy. You want someone energetic. And number three is honest. And in fact, honesty. Number three is honesty. And if the third one is the most important, because if they're not honest, the first two will kill you.
This was a good one. Okay, I want to shift gears a bit and also talk about outside of startups. And I know startups are a full-time endeavor. You have to be hardcore, otherwise someone will kill you. Outside of startups, what are some of your passions or interests or hobbies, or what do you spend your time on?
So আমি পলগ্রামকে এটা জিজ্ঞেস করছিলাম যে আমার কি ধরনের হবি থাকা উচিত so as Paul was your hobby should be your business, there should be no other hobby. I'm like you know, your hobby should be delivering socks. That should be your hobby, should be delivering socks, like, you know, how to make most efficient here. Don't have any other hobby. So basically I don't really have much passion. I like reading up on quantum physics these days, if that makes any sense. I try to read algorithms. That's just to make sure that my brain is still functioning, because I don't want to get stuck at a certain level. So yeah.
Interesting. আপনার LinkedIn টাইটেল হয়তো অনেক দিন থেকে ছিল delivering socks or something.
এখন মনে আছে।
আচ্ছা, এটা মানে what did you get any weird responses? Because
no, I did not get any weird responses.
Okay, approved. Try this. Okay. Okay. I also wanted to ask you, however you want to answer it. If you don't want to, then, you know, we can cut it out. But let's see if there's something there. Because you started a family and started a company around the same time, and a lot of young founders, you know, might struggle with this. You mentioned there's, you know, very difficult to keep work-life balance, and, you know, someone is always working harder. How have you thought of it or taken an approach to it?
I mean, my wife has been extremely supportive. So has my shoshu, shashuri, and my extended family, in giving me the space. I mean, when I'm they understand. My parents have been very supportive as well. I think it's important to sort of set the expectations, but obviously you can set it with like your wife, etc. With your kids you can't, right? Like, you know, because they didn't have to be here unless you wanted it, right? So they're like, you know, you have a commitment. So that's how I see it. Like, basically, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. CFA.
Yeah.
I think you took your first exam in 2011.
No, I took my first exam in 2009, 2010. তারপর একটা ফেল করছি, তারপর একটা দিয়েছি, চারবার পরীক্ষা দিয়েছি, মানে level 1, 2009, 2010, 2011 fail, 2010 হয়তো একবার ফেল করছি। হ্যাঁ, বাট বাই এনিওয়ে 3 বছরের মধ্যে শেষ হয়ে
2009 থেকে শুরু, and then I guess
sorry, 2008 in December I think I gave my first exam.
Oh wow. Even
yeah.
Okay, so
2008 থেকে year করে I think I passed in 2010.
So 2008 থেকে শুরু and I guess 2019 এর দিকে হয়তো কমপ্লিট করেছেন or something around.
না সো বেসিক্যালি পরীক্ষা দেওয়া আর চার্টার পাওয়ার মধ্যে তফাৎ আছে।
আচ্ছা
সো পরীক্ষা পাস করার পরে you need to have the relevant work experience and apply to like a CFA society to become a charter holder.
Okay.
সো পরীক্ষা আমি দিয়ে শেষ করে দিচ্ছি বিফোর এই চালডাল মালডাল করার আগে, হ্যাঁ, বিকজ ইট রিকোয়ার্স আ লট অফ ওয়ার্ক, হ্যাঁ। সো হ্যাঁ, পরীক্ষা I passed at the same time as Asif actually. হ্যাঁ, সো আসিফকে আমি চিনি বিকজ আমরা দুজনে CFA একসাথে দিতাম, হ্যাঁ। সো মানে I know Asif because of CFA actually.
Okay.
And তারপরে 2019 যেটা হয়েছে যে দেখলাম যে CFA ইনস্টিটিউটের প্রেসিডেন্ট বাংলাদেশ আছে, আসলে অনেকদিন হয়ে গেছে, পাস করছি, হ্যাঁ, এখন প্রেসিডেন্ট আসতেছে, এখন এই কাছে চার্টারটা নিলেই তো ভালো হয়। দেন আই ওয়াজ লাইক, আর তখন রেকমেন্ডেশন ইজি হয়ে গেছে, এখন আমার মানুষজন চিনে, হ্যাঁ। আমি আসিফকে ফোন দিয়ে বললাম যে ম্যান তুমি এটা রেকমেন্ডেশন দিতে পারবা, হ্যাঁ। তো আরেকটা ইয়ে ছিল যে আমি 2011 or 12 I thought যে বাংলাদেশে CFA সোসাইটি নেই, কি দরকার সিঙ্গাপুরে CFA সোসাইটি মেম্বার হবো, বাংলাদেশে যেদিন হবে সেদিন কি করবো, দ্যাট ওয়াজ মাই ডিসিশন, হ্যাঁ। তারপরে বাই দ্যাট টাইম বাংলাদেশে CFA সোসাইটি হয়েও গেছে, and then I was like, oh, everything fell like let's get the chance.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
How has that helped you?
CFA?
Yeah. Or has
no, I think it has helped me. I mean, number one is that you meet really good people. I think people, it's an automatic filter. Like, you know, not everyone you would have gone to university with, right? So that's there, right? I think like CFA power pore, like after becoming a member of CFA society, I've definitely benefited from the people that I've met as part of the society. The other thing is obviously, you know, it gives you credibility. আমি এখন যখন ব্যাংকে কোনো চিঠি পারে ওয়াসিম আলিম CFA দিয়ে হয়, এটা ছাড়া অন্য কোথাও নয়। সো only bank, Bangladesh Bank and places like that, right? So I had a interesting story. So there was a landlord in San Francisco. She's very picky. You know, a few of my friends actually lived in that building, and it's a highly coveted building. So, you know, we've been trying to find hacks to get new people into the building. So one of our friends is like Anand Bhaskar. And so when you apply kurba, you write Dr. Anand Bhaskar, because you know it matters to her. But you know, that's like. So I think like, you know, it definitely makes the doors easier to push. And number 3 is that, you know, it made my mom really happy. I'm master's korte parbo CFA kore shesh, and it didn't take much time. I mean, finance pure CFA. I mean, I would say I spent maybe like 4 months across the 3 exams.
This is the next question is actually something Asif Bhai suggested.
Okay.
So I asked him. I told him that I'm having Waseem on the show, and he asked me to ask you, if you were not doing Chaldal, what would you be doing?
Oh, it has varied from time to time, right? So এখন I'm struggling between studying quantum physics and starting a missile defense company. So those are the 2 things that I.
You're studying quantum physics and a missile
defense company. মানে এখন তো ধরো গুড সাইড একটা জিনিস হইলো যে খাওয়া দাওয়া ডেলিভারি দিতেছি, রেফিউজি হেল্প করতে, এটা ব্যাড সাইডও একটা জিনিস লাগবে, you know, because you need to hedge yourself.
Is this your villain arc, Waseem Bhai? Like,
no, it's not. It's not. Like, missile is actually a very defensive technology, right? So the way you think about it is that there are a huge aircraft carrier is coming towards you. It has costed them $5 billion to make an aircraft.
Right.
You can make like a missile for like $50,000 and destroy it. So right. So it's a missile is a super defensive technology. So, but you know, in this day and age, I think, you know, with the Russian war and things going, I think
it might become very prescient.
Yeah.
You know, too. Yeah. Okay. Is Tejas Bhai involved? Is he your co-founder in this?
Oh no, we haven't started it. I think I would get into a lot of trouble around the world. So, I mean, I hope, guys, we're not serious about this yet. We'll let you know when we are. We'll get the next.
You'll find out. And quantum physics, what is that about? You mentioned that it's to stay sharp, but what
it is to stay sharp.
Yeah.
I think that's the there are lots of concepts that are being developed, proposed, etc. Which are at the cutting edge of human imagination, right?
Right.
So you know, it keeps you on your toes.
Interesting.
But I'm not good at it. I'm like terrible. I'm অঙ্ক পড়তে পারি না there are like books that are written in like all this algebraic আমি বুঝি না, আমি বুঝার চেষ্টা করতেছি।
বুঝছি। I wanted to ask you the classic Peter Thiel question. What is one thing that everyone believes to be true but you disagree with, or something along those lines? Like, what's a contrarian belief of yours?
It's very hard for me because I found that the beliefs change, especially with as you're getting more prominence. যেমন আগে সব জায়গায় জিন্স পরে যেতাম, and that would be a contrarian thing to do. And this is দেখি সবাই জিন্স পরে
black turtlenecks and jeans.
Well, yeah, so like so I don't know, the contrarian thing keep on changing. Right now key contrarian জিনিস আছে. I think like I'm a contrarian on Bangladesh itself. Like if you think from a global perspective, I'm like a super bull on Bangladesh. I mean, I think Bangladesh has like a Korea story, South Korea story. I mean, I don't know if it's contrarian or not, but the way I see Cox's Bazar, like the situation around like the geopolitics, because it's at the borderline of like the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, right? And then there is a crisis there, etc. 60 years ago, that same situation existed between at the Seoul border in North Korea and South Korea, and Henry Kissinger had a picture on his desk showing the light. Like night view of satellite view of the Korean peninsula, and basically North Korea like duita light, and Korean peninsula the onekgulo light. So I feel like something like that is going to happen because you're going to have a lot of funding move there, you're going to have a geopolitical tension over there. So I think Cox's Bazar is the best place in the world to be right now and to set things up, and it's got a nice area, we can design it. So and I'm a contrarian about living in Dhaka. Like 40 million people live in Dhaka. I think that's really stupid because in this age I can understand from my parents' generation they didn't have like a like broadband and all of that, right? And you had to be like in this city with like terrible infrastructure. There's no need for this, right? You can spread it out more. So I mean I am more familiar. I would like to live somewhere else. So yeah.
Interesting. I think who was the company? It's either Zoho or something. The founder actually lives in rural India instead of
No, আমার ওরকম কিছু নাই. It's not like I like cows or something like that, right? I just like more space. I want nice place to walk on. Like my ideal place to live would be like, let's say Cambridge University or Stanford University. I would like an environment like that, right? Like where you have access to like top level healthcare, you have access to intelligent people, but no traffic.
Interesting. Pretty opposite too.
not where I mean.
Okay. So a bit of a left turn, and not really related to startups or finance or anything of yours, but you mentioned the North Korea or South Korea story, and Bangladesh South Korea story hoyto hoiteo pare, right? Could you tell us what the South Korea story is, very briefly?
So South Korea story is I mean basically like there was a Korean War, and I believe that the country was ravaged, and Korea did not have much development, but basically for 30 or 40 years after that they were growing at like 15%, 10% per year, right? And South Korea mudde, I think it worked as like the private sector taking the lead. Like so, you have companies like Lotte, you have companies like Samsung that came out of the Korean peninsula, where and what was happening was there was a lot of capital being fed into there because there was a lot of like US was deploying capital, military infrastructure chilo, So something like that basically is necessary. Not necessary, rather like something like that creates the conditions, right? Where like you have all this capital flowing in, you can redirect it and make things better and create really interesting things out of it.
What are the similarities with Bangladesh that you see?
I mean, the geopolitics is definitely very similar. The other side looks very similar, like so yeah. And like I think also the fact that the rules were not well defined in South Korea, maybe 1950s, and it got better. They had the opportunity to write the rules from bottom up. I think that's also মানুষ এখনো অনেক কিছু করার আছে,
right,
to set the structure.
Very interesting. So we're in that, still formative stage.
Yeah, we're formative. It's like going back to South Korea in 1950, but the years are much faster because knowledge transfer is faster. So basically, what happened in Korea in 50 years will probably happen in 15 years in Bangladesh.
Super interesting. Do you read a lot of history?
Oh, I love history.
Okay, this is great. What are some great history books or blogs or resources that আপনি এনজয় করেছেন, আপনি সাজেস্ট?
I think the best thing in history ever is Glimpses of World History by Chaldal. If you have not read that, it's this fat a book. Read it. I read it 3 times.
Okay.
Glimpses of World History by. I had this nice atlas. So basically, and this is like I think one of my dad's friend had it, and then he left it at our house or something like that.
Yeah.
But we atlas time there, basically, it showed like different periods, different world, different জায়গায় কিরকম development হচ্ছিল, like in the ancient Roman age, ওখানে কি হচ্ছিল, at the same time Chinaতে কি হচ্ছিল, হ্যাঁ.
Right.
So you could like flip the pages and just get like a of that. So I think that was one of the really good. I think it's by times, like Atlas of World History. I think that's an amazing thing to just go through if you want to orient yourself.
Okay. Anything else?
And Wikipedia. I mean,
entirely.
Yeah.
No biggie. Just read all of Wikipedia.
Don't read all of Wikipedia, but so Wikipedia is probably like I mean, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah. Agreed. One thing I've been really, I think it's Return of a King and Anarchy. Have you read these books?
No.
It's by William Darpel. No.
I only watched Return of the King. Lord of the Rings.
Oh, so okay. So normally I just take suggestions. I'm actually giving you this. I love this. So this Anarchy, I think you'll really like it. It's about the Bengal history, like this part of the world. Yeah. So the Battle of Plassey, this, that, etc., and a bunch of other like.
Who is it by?
William Darpel.
Okay.
Yeah, William Darpel. I'll send the link to you. But long story short, this is amazing because I didn't know anything about where I am. So everything from how Murshidabad was a very big power center in the 1700s or something like that. The different battles that happened from the Mughal period all the way to the East India Company to present day, and how much the East India Company actually looted out of this part of the world. Okay, so have a read, I guess. Yeah.
But the similar book is Discovery of India by Nehru also does that, but I haven't read the whole thing. But he goes through Nehru was like a crazy guy as well, like with history and everything.
What about biographies? Do you?
Oh, I love biographies. I mean, but এখন যেটা হয় বই নিলে না, it goes too slowly for me. হ্যাঁ. So আমি এটা করি
audiobook.
I don't have a time.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking to myself all the time, so I don't.
The voices in my head are my audiobook.
I mean, like audiobook, I can't do audiobooks yet, but I've heard good reviews about audiobook. Maybe we should try it properly. These days basically the books are too slow. So what I do is I go to wiki quotes and I just read quotes by the guy, and I feel like I get like the gist of the guy pretty well, right? And if a particularly impressive quote, then I'll maybe go a bit deeper. And I've done a lot of biographies, etc. But I think Wikipedia article is good enough.
So what are like one or two, I don't know, biographies that you'd recommend reading or have shaped you?
I mean, let's see. I mean, Warren Buffett's biography was there.
Snowball.
No, way before that. The one that is not so negative about him.
Okay.
The Steve Jobs biography obviously had a big impact. Andrew Carnegie. I read about his. So Andrew Carnegie, but Andrew Carnegie. So I mean, those are the biographies. My biography, I was recently reading the biography of Catherine Graham, who was the Washington Post owner chilo and went against Nixon, etc. But the reason why I'm reading that is because her life was so different from ours, right? Like she was like literally like born into US royalty, if you will, right? Her father started the IFC. So it's just like, it's like a very interesting But yeah, I mean, you can read the biographies, I think, but once you soak it in, I mean, there's new information becomes harder and harder to find, and the stories across the thing is Ben Franklin's biography. That's like the classic. Like, I went to university founded by Ben Franklin, so they made us read it. But the advice is pretty much the same. Like, take an initiative, like keep doing hard work, like work in something. Like, it's the same advice.
Okay, shifting gears again just a bit. If you have to teach yourself something, নতুন কিছু যদি শিখতে হয়, what's your approach?
It's difficult because it depends on the difficulty of the task. I mean, it's a matter of setting out time. I think. Like, I think you have to I mean, and this is hypothetical because I don't think I've learned much new thing. I think the last thing I've learned is SQL, and for that, basically, I had a need to do it, and I did the online courses. And online courses, I think, are brilliant because it teaches you very quickly. So I learned SQL very quickly from online courses, and then started working on our own database. So that was like 6-7 hours. And then recently, I've been trying to practice Age of Empires, but that's like, I have to set out like 6 hours in a day.
Age of Empire.
Age of Empire, I mean, bhalo hoche because extreme একটা AI আসছে এটাকে beat করতে পারতেছি না. So I think, I mean, it's about a chunk of time and not getting A and do it at the middle of the night. I'm also trying to read math and this quantum physics thing. But the problem is that when I go too deep into it, I fall asleep. মানে ওটা মানে কঠিন হয়ে গেলে the brain stops working. So I think that you have to really have that passion to do it through. But I think the best thing is to, like, if someone has a gun on your head, like, you learn something fast. So yeah.
So I usually ask people what their perfect day is and what their schedule and typical days are like. But I already have heard, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of follow Market Reason's advice, which is keeping your schedule very free, leaving room for a lot of different things to happen. Is that still the case, or am I, correct in the first place? What is
I'm not a very disciplined person. But I mean, I show up on meetings on time, I think, mostly. And I try to not block my schedule. I try to not take any meetings, but it's hard. Like, basically, if you are if you're running a company, like, you will have calls on your time, etc. So I mean, balanced approach. But usually I work late night. So that's a general pattern that I can say for last like 20 years. Like, best work that I do is done after midnight. And it doesn't matter if you're in the US or Bangladesh, like 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours.
You're a night owl.
I'm a night owl, and then, like, when I get into something, I try to finish it in one sitting because I know that the second sitting is very hard to come.
Right. Interesting. I wanted to. Okay, so coming back to Chaldal again. Sorry for being all over the place. There's just a lot of different things that I wanted to ask you. Coming back to Chaldal and company building, you started this with 3 friends, and over the course of 10 years, it's challenging, to say the least, for founders to stay on the same page, work together, divide and conquer, at least in my experience, limited experience. How have you done this well, if at all consciously, or was it more intuitive and second nature than something that you were very intentional about?
I mean, collaboration will beat competition 9 times out of 10, right?
You mean within the founders?
Yeah, I mean, within any society, a society that collaborates versus a society that is competitive for its resources. But again, like, basically, it comes down to resources, right? When resources are low, then it makes the society more competitive, right? So it is AI experiment to us, resources kome gele kintu fight hoy. So the way I see it is that obviously I don't worry about that. I mean, I worry about the cap table when I'm talking to new investors, but our split is our split. I try to maintain that. I think none of us believe that what we've achieved at Chaldal is ours. Is any of our personal work. In fact, it's not even just the founders, right? So I mean, that's how we take it. I mean, it's not unheard of. I mean, কত কোম্পানি আছে না যে ভাই 3-4 ভাই চালাচ্ছে, like Rothschild, like generations চলতেছে, or British royal family, like, but British royal is centered around one person. That doesn't it's centered around one person, but basically. It's not a very democratic. But basically, you can figure it out. Like, let's say university chalai, like
Yeah.
So
interesting.
I mean, the thing is that, well, one of the things that I believe is that there's only one right answer, right?
Okay.
And I think we all have a lot of patience in arguing out. Why is this? Why is that? But it has to be mathematically right that this is the correct answer, right? This is what we should go towards. I think the Native Americans had this, like you can type things, but basically you have to feel a decision. Like you just have to, like unanimous decision really means that সবাই একই রকম feel করে. It's not really yes. It's not like that. Like you discuss it and then come to a convergence.
Interesting. Again, this is going to be, I think the title of the show should be taking left turns, left turns one after another. But there was a post when I think Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai and a bunch of other people became, I think that was Satya Nadella being the Microsoft CEO, right? And there was a thread on some group about, hey, অনেকগুলো Indian আসলে top corporate executive হয়ে যাচ্ছে, তার CEO হয়ে যাচ্ছে in a lot of different cases, and I think you commented something about why you think that's the case, and the phenomena around really good Indian talent rising up the ranks in corporate America.
It's not an Indian talent thing. I think it's a selection bias. Like it's like general statistics, right?
Could you expand? Yeah.
So basically, the US has a visa quota, right? And ওই কোটাতে ঢোকার জন্য when you are from a country of billion people, like you have to really pass. So all the material that you're getting is already the cream of the crop. And I don't think Bangladesh hits its quota, or I don't know H1B তে এখন এরকম কোটা আছে, Bangladesh doesn't hit its quota or something like that. So already the people who are in the US are really the cream of the crop for India. So ওখান থেকে obviously and then let's say for some other country it may not be the cream of the crop, right? So that's what makes the difference, right? Maybe New Zealand থেকে যারা US যায় they are maybe like 80th percentile, but India is really 99.9 percentile.
Interesting. And then they've obviously stuck it out, and
Oh, I think there's something to be said about psychology. I think Elon Musk said it to some Twitter, you're willing to sell everything to the US government. So I think we are more, not we, right, the subcontinent, right? I think fiduciary responsibility is very well in our DNA, right? Because of British and etc. learning civil service, right? So I think that's why they perform better. Like you get the bright guys, and then they don't have any ambition beyond a certain level.
Right.
They want to stick it out in a career, like So I think that's the reason. But you're also seeing a lot of startup founders who are on the Indian side these days. So Bangladesh to যাচ্ছে, right? The stable diffusion guys from Bangladesh, right? So I think we are better at founding startups than we are at becoming CEOs.
Have you met Ahmed Bhai?
No, I have not. Interesting. Like Ian started a startup. There's been a few Bangladeshi startups. So basically, the ratio of startup founders from Bangladesh is actually more favorable than ratio of CEOs like India. It's still very bad. Basically, so Bangladeshis I think are just like 10 or 15 years behind. So I think India the active phenomenon, which is that the first generation of Indians is who broke into tech is like guys like Vinod Kholsa, right? And these guys are like legends, right? Vinod Kholsa is a top tech investor and everything, right? And Vinod Kholsa, and that happened because India had the IITs from 1970s. Or 1940, I think 1950 the IIT set up, so they had engineering talent. Bangladesh actually engineering একটা ডিসিপ্লিন,
Right.
ওই ডিসিপ্লিনটা কিন্তু আমাদের মানে it's not that wrong running, right? Like আমাদের and then we had like 20 years of turmoil, so we fell behind. So Indian broke into Silicon Valley 20 years before we did, Indians. And then basically they came back, they did the startups locally, এখান থেকে কিছু CEO হয়েছে, এখন next generation হচ্ছে, so there is a bit of that. They have a head start.
Right.
When I was in the Valley in 2008, I didn't know a single Bangladeshi. I knew a lot of Indians who would work at startups, but I did not know a single Bangladeshi. And I was talking to Asif Bhai, who ended up becoming lifted director of engineering at Instacart.
Right.
And Asif Bhai I know for a long time. And at some point he was saying that আমি যখন Microsoft থেকে Google যাচ্ছি or something like that, people were saying that why are you taking a risk? And then they went from Google to Twitter, why are you taking a risk? And from Twitter he went to Uber, and people were like, why are you taking a risk? And he's like, I'm not going to risk it. Mathematically, the stock option is better. Like, I don't know why Bangladeshis don't understand. So Bangladeshis also, the desire to keep pushing after you have achieved some sort of stability.
Right.
I think that's generally low, but that's not true for Bangladesh. I think that's also true for Indians, but there are more of them. So
Waseem bhai, for someone young, ambitious, let's say একটা fresh graduate, সে যদি এখন চিন্তা করে তার actually fresh graduate হইতে হবে না, someone young and ambitious, however we choose young, 15, 20, whatever years old, সে যদি startup founder হইতে চায়, or if he wants to do something that will make an impact on the world, positive impact on the world, hopefully, what should he do according to you?
How old?
15 to 20 years old.
15 to 20 years old. Okay. So, number one is that I think startup founder thing is overhyped, right? So, impact on the world comes from you having, you being able to utilize different tools. Someone with a chainsaw will cut more trees than someone with a korat.
Right.
Simple as that, right? So, at the age of 15 or 16, you need to understand what are the tools that are going to be relevant, or what are the cutting edge tools. Like it could be something like a certain kind of language, right? Or it could be database. Like let's say, I think 100 years ago, like the tool was writing, right? So most of the people did not know how to read or write. If you knew how to read, like that was a tool. And by tool, I don't mean it has to be like a haturi or something. I mean like tools that help your brain or something like that. Like learning to use a pen and paper to write something, like
right.
It's not that I'm calling the entire activity a tool, right? So ওই জায়গাটা আর কি important, so right, so
today is probably coding, I guess.
Today is coding, but most of coding is probably going to get obsolete in the next 10 years, right? So where you learn to code, a lot of coding is just like painting the job. এইখান থেকে কিছু কোড কপি করে এখানে পেস্ট করতেছি, right? So this ChatGPT thing is probably going to go a lot deeper, right? So you have to envision what the world looks like once ChatGPT has taken over.
What does it look like? What do you think?
Well, there are two views. One is that they kill us, and the other is that it doesn't get that smart, but everything becomes much simpler, right? So you should really think about what becomes there, and well, coding I think is still up there, and someone should learn to do it. It's like if you don't know coding, it's like you're ashikkhito. That's what I consider, because in 50 years time that's going to be as relevant, right? And people who know coding will actually have a yield or much more power. I think the undervalued aspects of life are people skills. I mean, and people skill, I don't mean like stand up and like talk to an entire audience, but how do you genuinely get information out of a person, collaborate with person, or find ideas, play with ideas, right? Have a really open mind. And your mind, like in most cases, you are very close-minded. Most people are very close-minded, right? So you have to realize that, and you have to like sort of expand it by like reading people who have like that kind of process, and train yourself to think unbounded in many ways. I think and I think that is that should yield value in the long run, right?
Yeah.
But just thinking and learning tools is not enough. You need to be doing things, right? So it's not done until it's like you start doing things.
Right.
So not good enough.
Right.
Start applying your thing on something, like it can be a pet project, like use the tools to grow something.
Right.
Oh, and I think most important is, I think, having that growth mentality. And by growth mentality, I don't mean like open world, etc. We will do like 5% growth,
right,
like etc.
Right.
I mean, like, always think like whatever I am doing, how can I do 10 times more, right? Or how can my life be 10 times better? So this is something I was thinking about actually just like 2 or 3 days ago. What does it mean to have a 10 times better life? So I thought about it. It's like, okay, if my life I have 10 minutes, what would I exchange this 10 minutes for getting like 1 minute off, right? So for example, like, let's say you take a flight to go to Maldives, right? You have literally wasted like, let's say 2 or 3 months of work for like half a week of pleasure, right? So
how have I wasted? What
I mean, you've not wasted, or you've worked and you earned and saved, and you had to
mean
bring
like
coffee.
The
income part. I mean, income is like the work that you put in, right? So obviously Maldives, it's going to Maldives is 10 times better than your average life, right? Now, basically, question is, how do you sustain staying in Maldives all the time, right? Like that becomes your work environment,
right?
Or something to that, like and I think it's very hard to get like 10 times very very much, but I think the more people who think about this 10 10 10, the better it is for the world.
Interesting. This is I could ask you more about this, but I want to because you're so steeped in finance as well, and I think you make your own, you do your own investing as well.
I used to at one point I invested money.
You don't invest anymore?
No, I don't have money. I mean, I know enough. I think knowledge it's more than average. So
okay, so I want to ask you how you invest these days, but before that, like what if I'm a 20-year-old and I just have, let's say, 1 lakh taka of savings that I have so far, what do you think I should do with that?
Go on a Euro trip.
Euro trip?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, it's interesting. Or
you have to give me more, please.
Go stay in a hostel. Like a hostel, you will get to meet new people. Your brain will open up. Like if you're in Dhaka, I mean, depends on where you're from, right? If you're from Europe, then don't go on a Euro trip. Okay. But if you're from Dhaka, and if you've not been out of the country, like go open your mind by having experience. I would invest in that experience. I mean, it's very hard to think what is the most efficient return of that money, because you can't predict, honestly, right? Like you might buy like সঞ্চয় পত্র, but that can be susceptible to inflation, right? And in that case, এক বছর পরে 20% তেলের দাম বেড়ে গেছে, you might have as well as bought soybean oil, right? So I don't think it's worth your time or mental effort, thinking about allocating 1 lakh taka. I think it's you should spend it on yourself at the age of 20. So one theory is that, see, your income is expected to go up as you not only because you get better, but mainly because the world gets better, right? So at a young age, I mean, you should be borrowing from your future,
right?
So basically, if you're young, you should take like a debt and travel the world and then try to bring it up from there, or something like that. You should be actually be at negative wealth early in your life. I mean, all these things about retirement savings, etc. I think is overdone. Why are you thinking 50, 60 years, like, like you don't know what the world looks like at that point, right? Maybe like, the 3D printing of houses gets so easy that to me it's like getting a burger from American Burger, right? Like you go, $1 I can stay at this house, and it could become like that because humans are getting better and better at creating wealth, right? But there are some things that are obviously valuable, right? So the question is, what do you do with a lot of money, right? And then that's really the question that you should be asking. Okay, আমার কাছে 1 lakh টাকা extra আছে. After everything I have done, I have 1 lakh টাকা. In that case, I mean, see, finance is about arbitrage. Arbitrage মানে হলো কি পেঁয়াজের দাম মহাখালীতে 20 টাকা, পেঁয়াজের দাম বাড্ডাতে 40 টাকা. Buy from মহাখালী, sell at বাড্ডা. Simple, and with the least amount of effort. So finance is about arbitrage. So now I was thinking, let's say a company like Amazon. Okay, so Amazon is, let's say, 10 times better than a Chaldal. Right? For sure. No doubt about it. মানে 10টা চালডাল Amazon cannot be better than Amazon, right? Like Amazon is, let's say, probably better than 100 Chaldal. Like by 100 Chaldal, I mean like Chaldal in 100 countries. Amazon is probably still better. Now the question is Amazon better than 1,000 Chaldal? Like but I don't know if we have that much population because we already do like 10,000 orders or so. But 1,000 Chaldal would be like 10 million orders, right? Maybe not, right? So one Amazon is not better than 1,000 Chaldal, right? Or let's say 1,000 some other business. So Amazon's market cap is at least $1 trillion right now. Divided by 1,000, that's $1 billion. Right? So in many ways, like basically what I'm trying to say is that there are all these startups which are undervalued, right? Because you compare the scale of things, and I think that's an interesting thing to do. I mean, at the heart of like investment, I think, is about understanding businesses, right? And making sure that your money is safe and it can continue to grow, it has the moat, etc. Like even if you're putting money in a bank, what is the bank doing? Bank is giving it as a loan to someone. How is it giving it as a loan? It theoretically, practically, they're giving it to friends and family. But theoretically, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to analyze like who are the top 10,000 applicants who require this money or can utilize this money, and then rank them and then disburse them, right? So and then like they will keep the profit and give you a bit of the sliver because the profit is generated from the economic activity. It's not arbitrage, economic activity. The actor, I don't know, like the waffle store that we have, right? Like at a waffle store, waffle bikri kore economic activity is giving me some pleasure for which I'm willing to spend 100 taka and I'm willing to work harder. Like to get that 100 taka to have that waffle, right? So if you can understand what are the economic activities which are beneficial, I think, and defensible, I think you should detect it and invest in that. Even if you have smaller amount of money early in your life, I think it's probably okay taking risk because you have a lot of time, so you can sit and analyze something in a lot of depth, right? Like depth. Like, so use that time and make some wise investments, right? So
what has becoming a father actually changed? What has it taught you? Do you view life differently? Any new?
Oh, it's very interesting because it's like I'm living my life again, right? Like it's like, what does it feel like to have chocolate for the first time? What does it feel like to let's say learn how to read comics? These were like very interesting experiences at some point in life that you don't really register. So I think that's the greatest thing. It's like I'm living my life again. I think that's most interesting, and I guess it's not like I've been like really irresponsible most of my life, but you know, I have a bit more fear, slightly more fear of doing the right things. So yeah, not fear of doing the right things, of doing anything wrong.
Right, and that comes from I don't know. Like,
I mean, that comes from the fact that, you know, like your actions will have consequences down the line.
Beyond yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for you know, making the time and you know, talking to us and just, you know, telling us all the things that you think and being so frank about it. I have just one last thing that I ask everyone, and it's basically, do you have a maxim that you live by, a quote that keeps coming back, or you know, something that you truly believe in and so much that, you know, you live your life by it?
Way too many of them.
Yeah.
But একটা আজকে সকালে কথা বলতেছিলাম যে কি জানি, মাইন্ড করলে শাইন করা যায় না।
মাইন্ড করলে শাইন করা যায় না। Thick skin.
This is by I will quote it, like Jishan bhai আছে একজন NOCC এর CEO, সে আমাকে আজকে সকালে বলছে এটা কিন্তু আপনাকে শিখাইছে, আপনাকে yes আপনি শিখাইছে, like he told me মাইন্ড করলে শাইন করা যায় না।
And what's the underlying lesson here, like thick skin রাখা লাগবে নাকি?
I think yes, I think basically you have to have not a thick skin. I think it needs to go inside you. You need to internalize it. But you know, like just because something happened once doesn't mean that it will happen again, right? So you have to understand what a key is, process the whole situation, and replay it.
Right.
Like it's like, you know, if you're playing an online game, like if playing against some competitor, you're not able to, like, let's say, I don't know, play Halo, you're not able to defeat a team. You keep playing them to understand, and yeah.
Right.
So repeat.
So don't take anything personally.
You don't take anything. I mean, analyze the situation basically. Like mind kore boshe thaklam bas shesh.
Waseem bhai, thank you so much
thanks.
for your time. Really appreciate it, and hopefully round 2 at some point.
Okay, thanks. Cool.